right now. Yes, here it is, all for you, education, entertainment, information and lifestyle videos on this channel. So if you didn't already know, I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. And today marks the 1 year anniversary. The 1st of August 2025 was when I walked away from a former friendship because the person got aggressive with me. It was really difficult for me to talk about this at the time. It was really, really hard. And I thought that person was hi Liv, it's nice to see you. I thought that person was my friend. I'd known them for over 7.5 years. Well, 7 years. I've known them for over 7 years. I don't know the exact time. But anyway, it was last year I had to leave. And it was really difficult because the aggressive outbursts they had with the clenched teeth, that was suddenly out of the blue for me. And I never expected them to be like that with me. And after that happened in the friendship, obviously I could not be friends with them anymore because my physical safety was not safe anymore with that person. And it absolutely devastated me. And looking back on it, it took a long time for me to get over that. I was trying to make sense of what happened in that friendship for like 6 months, like what was really going on. And I have to say that I was feeling from 2023 a devaluation in that friendship. But they kept denying that there was a dynamic shift, a dynamic change, which of course is blurring my reality. So that was really, really difficult, painful time for me because it's not like this is just a random person. This was someone who helped me with my disabilities a lot, someone who I held in high regard quite a lot. And it was like totally unexpected. And so that was really difficult for me. They had emotional outbursts before, but I know they have mental health difficulties and they're autistic, and I thought it was because of that. And so I was used to that, but they hadn't done that for like 1.5 years or more. And so I was like thinking that they used to go to therapy as well. So I was thinking that obviously they'd stopped doing that. So I thought that was a really good thing. So the fact that it got really aggressive with me was really, really bad. And I was trying to analyze what happened in the friendship because it was in 2023 that they started changing their behavior with me and they became very superior. And that was really difficult for me because I hadn't seen them. They used to be very empathetic towards me. They used to really like look up to me, value me, I felt. And then all of a sudden what happened was they changed their behavior. When I went to speak at Oxford University, actually, for Blue Talks, behind the scenes, they were my friend. And when I was talking to them, instead of them being really encouraging to me and really helpful with my anxiety, they weren't being very nice to me. They were saying, oh, just put mind over matter, you'll be fine, blah, blah, blah. And they were just making my anxiety much, much worse behind the scenes rather than being an actual good friend. And this caused me a lot of difficulties. And they knew that this had affected me. So what happened when I got back? They actually came to apologise, which I thought was great. So they said they were sorry, but as soon as I accepted their apology, they then said, oh, I can leave the friendship, like I can just like leave the friendship and and not be your friend anymore. And I'm like, I didn't understand that because I'm like, I've just accepted your apology, you've come all this way, I've accepted your apology. So I didn't understand how they could just leave a friendship just like that, because by that time I'd been friends with them for like over 5 years. So that was a real shocker for me. And after that, and I said, well, no, I've accepted, you've said sorry, I believe you, and you've come over here to take the time, so I forgive you. That's fine, right? I don't forgive very easily unless I think someone's genuinely sorry for what they did. Then I don't, unless someone's genuinely sorry, then for my mind, there's nothing to actually forgive them about. Because if they're not sorry, there is nothing to forgive. Because for the pure simple fact, they're not sorry. So I forgave them, and simultaneously in that moment after I forgave them, that's when they started the devaluation process. I could feel it. But because they kept saying, however many times I brought up that I felt there's a dynamic shift, I didn't bring it up all the time because that would have just been too much. So every so often, a few months or whatever, I brought up the fact that I felt there was a change in the dynamic, a shift in the dynamic between me and them. They would just deny it. And so that made it really, really difficult for me. But I could feel it, I could tell it. Because when someone's different, they're less empathetic, they're less caring, you feel more like a burden, that they're more different in how they speak to you, and they don't look at you with that enthusiasm and excitement anymore and stuff like that. That's what happened. So it's really difficult when that does happen, and I'm sharing this here because I want you to know that if this has happened to you in a friendship before, where all of a sudden someone who you thought you knew for years has just changed their behavior and you felt like a devaluation by them, and then all of a sudden they have an aggressive outburst, which means you're just not safe with them anymore, I want you to know you're not alone. That's why I'm sharing this. It's not easy for me to share it. I don't like sharing the fact that someone who I really trusted, who I thought was really, really had my back and was invested in the friendship with me. I don't like sharing this in the sense that it doesn't feel good. I mean, I trusted them, right? It's complete betrayal what happened and everything that happened. They reconnected with a former friend that deceived me for a whole 5 years of an entire friendship. So they went back to a deceiver, which is someone who deceives you for 5 years, is emotional abuse. So going back to an emotional abuser, which I don't have anything to do with, and expecting me to just be friends with them. When I said that, I told them a few weeks before that if they decide to reconnect with that person, I don't think I could remain friends with them. And, they said they weren't going to do that. They wouldn't let that person come between us. And then there they were deciding to reconnect with them. So I couldn't stay friends with them because I can't be friends with someone who goes back to someone who deceived me. And also, they weren't good to them either. They devalued them. I was the one that was go-between because I introduced them. They were they were both my friends before I introduced them to each other to be friends together. So I just want you to know that you're not alone if this has happened. It's something that's not really talked about. Hello to everyone in chat. Thanks for being here. So it's something that's not talked about a lot, It's something that goes unnoticed, especially in friendships. A lot of people talk about romantic relationships and they talk about the problems in that, but they don't really talk about friendships. And as we know as asexuals, we usually value our friendships even more a lot of the time than the average person does, because to us a close friendship is a very different thing to someone who's, for example, heterosexual, who probably has got a lot more invested sexual interest and energy in that person. We tend to feel more of an emotional connection to our friends, feel a more closeness to our friends, a more companionship and buddyship and camaraderie and that type of thing. It's very, very important that you understand this thing can happen in friendships as well. And it can be very, very difficult. Hello to everyone in chat. And so I think you've got to understand that if this happens to you, it's not your fault. It means that person was hiding something from you for a very long time. If all of a sudden they have an aggressive outburst, it's basically their mask fell off and I saw them for who they truly were, which they've been hiding a lot from me for over the years. And like I said, I felt a devaluation. Now, people who are narcissistic can devalue, but also people who are avoidant can devalue. I didn't know this until I looked at my research, did a lot of research after that friendship ended. Why did they behave the way they did? And what it revealed to me, which was absolutely shocking, is that person did have a number of narcissistic traits that I never realised. I just thought they were an avoidant person. And I didn't realise that avoidant and narcissistic traits overlap. And there are differences, but they do overlap. And avoidant people can devalue as well as narcissistic trait people. And so if you do your research about it yourself, you will see that they have a lot of similarities and a lot of crossovers as well. And it's often that people who are narcissistic are avoidant as well. And so it becomes oh my God, because this person's got a family history and they hate narcissistic people as far as I know. Yet they have lots of narcissistic traits that I didn't even realise until I was writing them down and looking them up and I was talking to like AI about it. Obviously, you can't trust everything AI says, but if you look at different AI sources and you also do a lot of research in general and find articles on it and stuff like this, which I did find articles on things like avoidancy versus narcissism, and you look at other resources, then you understand there's some overlaps, and because there's some overlaps, sometimes it's hard to distinguish which one someone is. They've got narcissistic traits, or have they got avoidancy. I'm not saying this person's a full-blown narcissistic personality disorder person. I don't actually think they were. I don't think they were. I don't know for sure. I'm not a medical person who can diagnose that. But they did have a lot of narcissistic traits, which I didn't even realise. So he was like 14 when I did my research. I'm like, oh my God. And so and then looking back, I could see them. It was so weird. I'm like, how could I have not noticed this before? How could I have not noticed this? But the fact that they were very anti that type of behaviour never ever led me to think that they could even have any of those traits. And I thought they were very anti that behaviour and anti-traits. So it's really shocking. But there are people who are vulnerable narcissists versus grandiose narcissists, and different people in between. And so a vulnerable narcissistic person, or person with narcissistic traits, of vulnerable narcissistic traits, behaves differently to someone with grandiose narcissistic traits. And so there are differences between the two, but they still like lie, which that person did to me. I found out they were lying more than I thought they were. So years ago, I did accept like little white lies, which I don't usually do, right? I wouldn't usually do that in a relationship, right? If it was on a dating site and I found a white lie, I would usually not entertain that if I knew beforehand they were a liar. But this person did actually admit to me that before they met me, they were a liar. And I assumed that they'd stopped lying when they met me. But there was little things that they did lie about. For example, something that probably wouldn't be obvious to most people is like during COVID time, we had to give our phone numbers in the UK when we went out after COVID. You know, when we could go out to restaurants and stuff, but they had to have our number just in case someone got COVID near us. He gave a false number to the person, which easily rolled off his tongue. So this is something you have to really watch out for. It's one thing to lie, which is so bad. But another is like, how easily do they lie? Do they feel shameful for lying? Do they feel embarrassed for lying? Do they feel remorseful for lying? Or is it just like it rolls off the tongue and they think it's fine? And so that was something that I overlooked, you know, and there was a lot of contradictions with them as well. And they were, in the end, they were rewriting history. They were saying things that I knew wasn't true. At one point, they used my mental health against me once. And I'm like, oh my God. Because when they came to me, they had severe mental health problems, which through my friendship with them, a lot of that went away and improved, if you know what I mean. They used to have depression before they met me, and they stopped being depressed during the time they knew me, which meant I left them in a better state than I found them. But they didn't leave me in a better state than they found me. I mean, they were less empathetic in the end and stuff like that. So if you're talking about trauma and it's like they're emotionless and they don't have any empathy for you, that's a huge narcissistic trait. Narcissistic people, narcissistic traits is a lack of empathy, a big lack of empathy. If they show, especially if you're talking about really difficult, emotional, traumatic topics. And at one point, I knew he really cared about me and wouldn't want me to go through any of that trauma I went through. But when I talked to him like later on last year, it was like he didn't care. It's like he was more interested in other things than my trauma. So for example, I was facing homelessness last year, and his attitude towards that was not like it used to be. Years ago, he would never have wanted that for me, but last year it was like he couldn't care less. And you know what I mean? And when I was talking about an area I lived in that was quite traumatic, that I did have abuse from a former boyfriend there years ago, and there's another ex that is dangerous for me to be near, and he still lives near there. So I didn't want to live near there, right? But because I was facing homelessness, I did say, oh, there's a place near there, but it's you know, that's the only one I can find in my budget, but I would never live there because it's dangerous for me. One is I got really bad memories of of an ex who did a really physically violent thing to me when I lived with him. And then the other ex, I'm actually on the register, at-risk register, from him being near me with a police issue thing. I had to get the police involved with that other one. So that's really, really bad, you know. So that area is a no-go for me. And I live nearer that area than I used to, which is not great. But it's far enough away for me. And so I'm like, there's no way I want to be moving there. And instead of him caring about what trauma I've been through and what difficulties and understanding, of course you wouldn't want to go there. You wouldn't want to be in an unsafe environment, especially not with your last ex, which, you know, you have you're at the at-risk register from him physically harming you if you go near him. Of course you wouldn't want that. He was more focused on, show me the place. That's all he cared about. That is someone who's like very unempathetic, got no emotional stuff there at all. But it was really weird because prior to that, I think it was like a week and a half ago, he was showing like very empathy because I had a panic attack and he was really caring about that. So that was really weird. So that's why I don't think he's got full the narcissistic personality disorder, but he's certainly got some narcissistic traits, which I didn't realise, and I was really, really shocked. And one of the things I want to say to you, which I never realised until being in Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club. So I'm in Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club. Matthew Hussey is one of the world's top dating and relationship and confidence coaches, and I pay privately for his membership. I've been in there since 2024 now, and I learned through coaching in there that if someone is not curious about you, they don't ask you any curiosity or questions about you. It's nearly all about them, their life, you asking them questions about them, and they haven't really got much of an interest in you. That is a huge red flag. The person that was doing the coaching, which was Matthew's brother at the time, said he realised that he had some friends like that, and he left those friendships because they were very unhealthy, because they're imbalanced. You can't have a healthy relationship, because a healthy relationship requires balance and reciprocity in the relationship, in the friendship. And if it's not reciprocal, if they're not equally asking you questions and being curious about you, then it's not a healthy friendship or relationship for you. So it's very imbalanced and unfair and unequal, which can leave you feeling very emotionally drained in the relationship, like you're carrying all the emotional weight of it. This translates into friendship, because this is what I ended up having with this former friend, where I was the one doing the majority of question asking about him on the bus, when I saw him to sit down, when I was walking with him, and I didn't even realise this. I didn't even realise that I was the one asking nearly all the curiosity questions about him. I was the one still taking an interest in his life and what he did with his friends and hobbies and interests and holidays he went on and all sorts. And then I'm like, oh, the penny dropped. I'm like, this guy is not that interested in you, son. He's not really showing you much curiosity. He probably did in the beginning of your friendship, but not anymore. And so when you see all that shifting and you realise it's just not healthy for you, you know, and so it was very difficult time. But he said something that is a narcissistic thing as well. It's quite controlling, and they do it either it's subconsciously or consciously. And so what he said to me, instead of saying, oh, I really don't want to lose you as a friend, he didn't say that at all to me. He said, I don't want you to be lonely. Like his actual words were, I'm worried you're going to be lonely. Because he said, oh, I still want to be your friend. After he got aggressive with me, which he did not apologise for at all at the time, right? And he said a lot of other hurtful things, was gaslighting me and not being good. And I was very unsafe around him. And then he said, oh, I'd like to still be your friend, which I knew was not even true, because I spoke to him not that long ago before that and said about the fact that I still felt there was a change in our friendship dynamic, because in March he started texting me like a mate down the pub, really removed of our friendship. It's really weird, and that was a huge red flag, obviously. And so it's really difficult when you go through all this and you're like, I thought I knew this person. I thought this person was a stable, strong friend for me, and they weren't. But I did have a lot of anxiety in that friendship, because I felt like there was an imbalance. I felt the devaluation, even though they didn't say it. And I felt like I was the one that was more invested in them in the end than they were me in the friendship. And obviously I was right all along, especially with the aggressive outburst. And I know their behaviour changed. And when I said something, instead of them saying, yeah, I've changed or whatever, they were just pretending it had always been that way. So they were rewriting the history and reality. which again blurred my reality. So when you're with someone like that, who's not being honest, who's blurring reality, it makes you feel very disorientated because you don't know what's reality or not. And because I know he was avoidant, that obviously is very difficult for an anxiously attached person. And I looked at their messages compared to mine, and they did message me every day. They were consistent in messaging me. But if you look at the quality of the messages, look at what they were actually saying, if they were saying the same things, like how much curiosity was in those messages, not much. Sometimes they would ask me, like, how's my day? So it's not like they never asked me that. But overall, it would just be kind of like, oh, I've done this, this, and this now, and then I'm going to be doing this. Not like, how's your day been? Not like, and they used to, like, in the past say, oh, do you want a phone call? And they stopped doing that. They stopped being excited to see me. They came later to see me. They left earlier to see me. But on the night of the aggression, they could see, they didn't have a time limit, which is a huge red flag. It's like, oh, all of a sudden you don't have a time limit. They didn't say, oh, I've been aggressive to you, I've hurt your feelings, I want to sort this out. They're just like, oh, I can be here as long as you want me to be. Like I really want them to still be there or something. But they knew in the past that I would like to have talked to them more and them to stay longer for me to talk to them, because I really cared about them, wanted to spend time with them. Again, that was an imbalance in the friendship. But when they said to me, oh, I still like to be your friend, I knew they didn't really mean it. I could see it on their face, because I said to them not long ago before that I remembered, like, nearly 2 years prior, that they'd, when I forgave them for them upsetting me that time, when they got all superior on me and wasn't being helpful, and I forgave them, then I felt a shift in the dynamic, and I said, I can't believe that you could just leave our friendship just easily like that. That really hurt me and shocked me. So I know that when they said, I still want to be your friend, I could see it in their eyes. They were just going through the motions because they remembered what I said. Now, with people who've got narcissistic traits, they actually latch on to what you say. They don't necessarily know how to behave and what to say, and they just say things to manipulate you to thinking a certain way, like, oh, this person must really care about me because they're saying those words. But look at their eyes. Look at the context. Look at what's happened before. This person got aggressive with me. Why would I want to still be their friend after they got aggressive with me? Not to mention they were completely avoiding the fact that they got aggressive to me. Not once did they say I'm sorry, because they weren't sorry. They really meant to be aggressive with me. They really meant every hurtful word they said to me. And they said, I'm kind to everyone. That's just after they've been aggressive to me. That's called delusion. And people who have narcissistic traits are delusional. They have this hero persona, either this shameful persona or this hero persona. And then to avoid shame, they want this hero persona, either, especially not people who have got vulnerable narcissistic traits. They're either the victim or the hero. But even people who are grandiose, they're either usually the victim or the hero consistently. And they have this false sense of identity that they're the most kindest person in the world, when actually they're very cruel. People who are kind people don't usually generally going, I'm kind to everyone. They don't usually go around saying those types of words. They might, if they're reflecting, they might say, I think I'm a kind person. I feel I'm kind-hearted. But usually they wouldn't go around boasting about something like that and saying it like a badge of honor. Do you know what I mean? So, and when the person says I'm kind to everyone, but simultaneously just after being very aggressive with clenched teeth to me, which I thought was going to end up in a physical fight, and clearly it's not safe for me to be around, this was in public as well, then they're not being kind to everyone. They're lying to themselves as well as you, and being very delusional. And this is how people with narcissistic traits work. Even my ex, who I had to leave at the beginning of last month, I've been free of him now for over 4 weeks. Even he says he's kind. And I'm like, because all my friends know I'm kind. I said, well, they're not in a relationship with you behind closed doors. It's not kind, it's not kind that he said he'd call me at the gym and never called me. And I told him that. He goes, oh, I said I'd call you to be kind. So it's not kind to say you'll call me and then not call me. I trusted you. It's not kind with my ex to lie. It's not kind of my ex to go over my sexual boundaries. It's not kind of my ex to gaslight me. It's not kind of my ex to be manipulative. You know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, because of my background history, I tend to attract people who are narcissistic and be attracted to these types of people without even knowing it. I had no idea that my former friend of 7+ years had any narcissistic traits. I didn't see it because they were against that type of person as far as I knew. They made out. So it was an absolute shocker. So I'm just saying this to help you to be aware of things. Anyway, after they said, oh, I'd still like to be your friend, which I knew was just false because they were just putting on a show for the fact I said, I can't believe, like, in 2023 you were just going to leave our friendship after I forgave you. Then they switched to saying, oh, I don't want you to be lonely, right? Notice that. I don't want you to be lonely. How manipulative and controlling is that? Whether consciously or unconsciously. Do you know why? Because it's designed to make me think I can't live without the person. And there is nothing to say that they care about me as a friend or person in there. Nothing. Nothing. It's about me being able to not live without them. If a person genuinely cares about you and wants you as a friend, they will literally say, I don't want to lose your friendship. You mean the world to me. First of all, they'd say sorry about being aggressive instantly. They'd be remorseful and feel shameful about it. And they would not gaslight you and blur your reality and make you to be the problem. And actually try to get you to understand their point of view when they have been so terrible to you. They wouldn't say they're kind to everyone while simultaneously just been hurting you emotionally as well as getting physically aggressive with you. Right? These are not healthy people traits. These are horrible traits. These are dangerous traits and unsafe traits. And a person who values you does not go around saying, I'm worried about you being lonely. It's like, is that all the F you think about me? You're just worried if I'm going to be lonely, like I can't live without you. Well, I have news. I have now been without that person for a whole year. I ended that friendship on the 1st of August. They were actually messaging me still for a little bit of time after that. Unfortunately, at the moment, I'm still tied to this person in some way. But I haven't had anything to do with them. So it's August last year. August the 1st was when the friendship actually ended. Although I was too scared, listen to this, too scared and unsafe to actually say the friendship ended. They knew it ended. Because they watch my channel here. They might even be seeing this video tonight. They're you know what I mean? They had the gall, right, a few days later, to say, oh, I'm sorry I damaged the connection. Damaged the connection? It's an effing understatement. They didn't damage the connection. They annihilated our friendship and they made me so unsafe around them. And they did such horrible narcissistic behaviors towards me that's absolutely disgusting and made me out to be the problem. It's hideous. Absolutely hideous. I hope no one has to go through this whatsoever. I hope no one has to go through this. And they went back to a former friend who deceived me for the whole 5 years of the entire friendship. So in other words, I had a double betrayal by both of them. They're welcome to each other. I think they're very well suited. Both avoidant and both got narcissistic traits, I found out, interestingly. Vulnerable narcissistic traits. They won't like me saying that, of course, but there we go. But it's the truth. If they look up actually narcissistic traits, vulnerable narcissistic traits and behaviours, if they look it up. I'm not saying they've got narcissistic personality disorders. I'm just saying narcissistic traits, which are bad enough, right? And, yeah, so... you know what I mean? So for like 6 months, I was trying to work out their behaviour. I was thinking they can't have narcissistic traits. There's no way they can have that because they're dead against stuff like that. But sure enough, the more and more I peeled back the layers of all the things that happened in the past and the way they perform and act and the way they are, I'm like, oh my God, they've been living different lives between me and the image they portray to other people, I believe, I think. In any case, they turning around and saying to me, I don't want you to be lonely, is a very controlling and manipulative thing because it's designed to make me think I can't live without them. And like I said, now I've been living without them for over a year. Well, for a year now, because it was a year yesterday. It's gone to the 2nd of August now. It's a year yesterday I split up with them as a friend. And my life has got so much better. It got a lot worse before. I was in a really dark place for a long time, having dark thoughts. I'm not going to lie to you. It's absolutely awful. when you have got someone who, you know, betrayed you like that, betrayed your trust, betrayed your friendship, betrayed everything you thought about them, and they've gone back to another person who betrayed me, which is not safe for me either, right? It's just totally unsafe. There's no way I could stay friends with them when they reconnect to that person, because it's an unsafe person for me. They're both unsafe for me, right? So anyway, I'm really proud of how far I've come in my journey. I'm really proud of the fact that I not only have got my life together, but my life is in a better place now without them. I don't have all the anxiety I had when I was friends with them. I don't have the one-sided imbalanced friendship. I don't have the blurring of my reality, that the dynamic had not changed when it clearly had, and they just denying it for about 1.5 years, which was so cruel to do that to me. I don't have like me wanting to see them when they don't want to see me as much. I don't have me like being curious about them far more than they ever were about me in the end. I don't have all that stuff. I don't have to manage that. I can just manage myself, and my nervous system is a lot more calmer, and my emotions are a lot more regulated without that person in my life. You know, since I left friendship, I also left another friendship, which was unhealthy for me. We mutually decided to end that one. That was in October, and I fired my therapist as well in October, because the therapist was echoing the patterns of my former best friend, the one that got aggressive to me. He didn't even care that the person got aggressive to me. He didn't even say, are you safe? Are you okay? Are you, you know, is this person like messaging you? Are you okay? You know, are you physically safe? Are you weighing out of harms of this person? He didn't even say anything like this. And he's a therapist supposed to be taking care of my safety. All he cared about was, oh, the former friend helped you a lot, didn't they? It's like, what the hell? Just because that former friend helped me a lot does not give them the right to treat me that way and be aggressive with me and be unsafe, which means I'm not safe near them anymore. Do you know what I mean? I'm not safe. I could even feel that it might end up in a physical fight. I felt that from an ex in an actual relationship before. When you feel that, it's horrible. You know that you're never safe ever again around that person physically. You can't trust them, and there's no way you can be near them. It's awful. I mean, I did continue at that time to do the shopping with them, the food shopping, but I didn't speak to them, and they were in the end, they were on the bus crying for themselves, not for me. They weren't ever sorry they hurt me. They were just feeling sorry for themselves, which again, narcissistic people with narcissistic traits are very self-centered, just thinking about their self, not the harm they do to others. It's all about their shame and their pain and their harm and their self-absorption, not, look, I did a really bad thing to you, and I take full responsibility and ownership for that, and I'm changing my behaviour, which is full accountability and responsibility, not just there was no sorry at that time. I wasn't sorry until days later, and she's sorry I damaged the connection. That's a feeble thing to say. And then he still has to watch my channel. Oh, but can I still watch your channel? I'm like, what? You have the gall to still say you want the best parts of me on my channel, yet you treat me like SHIT in the end as a friend. Okay, whatever. Even if you block someone on a YouTube channel, they can still watch your videos. They just can't comment and stuff. I haven't blocked them because it's like they don't usually comment anyway. And also, I still have to be connected to this person currently in some way. So yeah, I just don't have to deal with them directly, and hopefully I won't have to for a very number of years. Because I just, you know what I mean? It's horrible when you still have to deal with someone like that. But it is what it is. Do you know what I mean? But it's just like, you know, when you see the self-centeredness of this person, I'm like, you know, you really hurt me, and you have the gall to just say all this stuff. But anyway, the good news is I am alone, as in I still don't have any in-person friends, but I am not lonely. I am actually thriving without that person. I'm thriving on my own as a single solo artist of life. My nervous system has calmed down, especially since I just left just over 4 weeks ago, left the former ex as well, romantic relationship that he ended up being no good for me. So do you know what I mean? It's just horrible when I keep getting involved with people in some way that have narcissistic traits, and I don't even see it for a long time. It feels really bad. Do you know what I mean? But clearly it's a pattern that I need to get out of. And unfortunately, it's what I've known throughout my life. And so it's going to be a really hard pattern to break. But I am in Love Life Club. I am working on myself all the time. I'm trying to develop healthier ways of being, healthy relationship skills, improve my communication skills. And I'm constantly working on myself to better myself for myself, and if I get a future partner and any future friendships. I have got a couple of people I speak to online, but no in-person friends. But I'm okay with that, because I'd rather wait to see if I do get any really good quality in-person friends. If I don't, I'd rather just be by myself, because I can still stream on this channel. I write my books, which I absolutely love. I've been working on my book about narcissism again. I'm quite, invested in writing the book I'm writing, because I'm sharing my personal journey, mostly about my last romantic relationship that ended up me being with a narcissistic guy there. And so I have got a lot of experience of narcissistic traits and narcissism, like where people are narcissistic and have narcissistic traits towards me. And I don't like saying that. Do you know what I mean? It's horrible to say, oh, narcissistic people get attracted to me. I clearly get attracted to them as well. That's a really, really horrible thing to say. And I could feel shame for it. I'm like, you know what? I have to admit the reality to myself. Because if these people are attracted to me, I'm clearly actually attracted to them as well in some way, because I wouldn't have them for so long as people in my life and friends and romantic part. I wouldn't have them, would I? Unless there was an attraction of some sort there. And I know this is because of my past, my history. I don't want to go all into it because there's a lot of personal stuff involved in that. But throughout my life, there's been a pattern of these types of relationships. And I am trying to break free of this pattern. Trying to break free of it's not easy. So I'm not fully healed from this yet. I'm not fully broken through the pattern. I think it's going to take me absolutely years to break a pattern that's been conditioned and instilled in me however long I've been alive, pretty much. And so it's going to be hard. And I'm being honest with you about this. Not enough is spoken about this. And although there's a lot of focus on narcissistic personality disorder, which I can't diagnose because I'm not a medical professional, I don't pretend I am, I can't diagnose that, there are patterns of behaviour that you can see is narcissistic behaviour and narcissistic traits. So I think it's important to understand them and notice them and see when they actually crop up, because I've got over 10 years online dating experience as well. I am able to see a lot of red flags, like more easily than I used to. And in the last romantic relationship, I spotted red flags, a number of them, within the first week of being with the guy. And I brought them to his attention. I gave him a chance to put them right. Now, if someone's not a true narcissistic person and hasn't got narcissistic personality disorder, and they are, they've just got really unhealthy behaviours, it's possible they could change, but it'd probably take them absolutely years to change. Not actually like soon. But you'd think that they would make a start. They would give you something. You would see some progress. But in the end, all I ended up seeing was the same behaviours, but worse and more red flags. And when that happens, you've got multiple narcissistic trait red flags, and they just get more and more with a romantic relationship, for example, I'm talking about in the book, without mentioning the person's name, then you know that person's not going to change. And you have to get out, because in the space of the romantic relationship I had that was less than 3 weeks in the end, because I got out of it quickly, probably some people have got out of it even quicker, do you know what I mean? I could see the devaluation cycle already within 3 weeks, because narcissistic if a person's really narcissistic, possibly has narcissistic personality disorder, right? They're really narcissistic. They do a full devaluation process. Now, this process can take months, but I saw it happening within the space of less than 3 weeks with the former ex, which is why I left. Because, you know what I mean? After 1 week, I saw the red flags. At first, I thought it brought us closer together. He's like, yeah, I accept all them and all the examples I gave of him doing that in the relationship. He's like, yeah, I agree with all of those. And I want to change and put things right, which I thought means he can't have narcissistic personality disorder, because he wouldn't be so calm about it, wouldn't be so accepting about it, and wouldn't say he wanted to change, because that's not what narcissists do. But people who have narcissistic traits can actually fool you. They can lead you down a garden path, which is not actually where the destination is, right? And so unless they actually change their behavior, they just say sorry, or they don't even say sorry, or the way they say sorry is not a genuine apology, and they don't actually have behavioral change, it means nothing's changed. Anyone can say they will change, but to actually change, they have to do that. And I said in this document, because I sent them a Word document after 1 week with a list of things like gaslighting and deflection and going over my sexual boundaries. I put all this in writing and the examples I gave from our relationship within a week, and I said this has to change, otherwise because it's unacceptable. I can't be in a relationship with a guy like this. He was lying as well. I said, because it's just not healthy. I said, and you can either, and I gave him some advice and said, you can either, I said, I'm not here to coach or mentor you. I said, I want it to work between us. I said, and I put a lot of videos to help him in the document. And I said, you can either do this work, to change these unhealthy behaviors with me in a relationship, or you can do it on your own. You're free to go, from the relationship. And I said, to put all this stuff right, it could take a couple of years. And if you don't do that with me, then do it on your own. But I just don't think he's got any interest in it. He didn't really have any interest in the end. I don't think he's going to change. He's all about ego, which grandiose narcissistic people are. All about image management, image control. Funnily enough, vulnerable narcissistic people could be like that as well. Or vulnerable, there's kind of like a grandiose to some vulnerable narcissists as well, I think, like in image management and control. So, you know what I mean? But do you know what I mean? It's very strange. So, because I noticed my former friend was all about image control and had to have external validation all the time. Again, these are narcissistic traits, which I didn't realize before. So, yeah, very much about image control, image management, how people see and perceive him. So when you see someone who's all about image control, image management, remember they are controlling people. If you see someone who's doing image management, image control, they are controlling the way people perceive them, which is deception, which is a form of manipulation and control of other people. So always remember that. Like, there are a lot of people online that are controlling what you see about them to present a certain image. You meet me in person, I'm the same as I am on YouTube here. I'm not putting on a front. You can probably tell that by what I'm saying now. Am I saying things that are pretty and sugarcoating things? No. Am I saying I'm perfect? No. I'm saying I got work to do on myself. I keep attracting these types of people. I have work to do on myself to stop myself attracting these people. But God knows how many years it's going to take me. I don't think it's going to be an overnight fix. If you've had ingrained patterns in yourself for a lot of years, throughout pretty much your whole life, which I have, it's not going to be an overnight fix. I'm not all over a sudden going to click my fingers and wow, I stop attracting these people and stop being attracted to them. And you never stop attracting different types of people, even if you are, do you know what I mean? Like, whoever you are, you're always going to attract good people and not good people. You're always going to attract people who are nice and people who are deceptive. Because if you're an attractive person, that's going to happen anyway to anyone. But if that's all you're usually attracting and attracted to, even on a subconscious level, you've got to change that, right? Even when I go to like social meetups, I'm attracting the wrong people. I'm like, how? I'm even talking to some different people as well that I wouldn't even usually talk to, and I'm still coming up against like, the wrong people. So clearly I have work to do on myself. But the difference between someone who's narcissistic and not is someone who's narcissistic does not usually work on themselves internally. They might work on their image, their status, their money, all their financial power, because this is all to do with power, control, manipulation of others, those things. But they won't do the internal work to say, hey, I've got issues and I need to sort them out. And I need to work on them, and I am working on them. I've been working on my issues since 2024, and I still continue to work on them to this day. I plan to be in the Love Life Club for at least 5 years. More like, I'm thinking I'll probably need 20 years before I can change all these patterns. That's how much I think I need help. Do you know what I mean? But I can spot red flags, narcissistic traits a lot quicker. All this experience, if you like, of me ending up with the wrong people for me, unhealthy people, means that I can spot red flags quicker now, and I have a lot of experience of doing that. But clearly, like, last year was a bombshell because I never saw any of these traits in my former friend until towards the end. And then it all came to fruition. And I realised actually he's been trying to control his image ever since I've known him, and how people perceive him and what people think of him. So, do you know what I mean? And actually, he did lie during COVID times. It might have been a little lie, but it's still a lie. And how easily did it come to him? Very easily. So you have to look back at the past in order to understand the present and the future and how to protect yourself. I have an anxious attachment. I have an insecure attachment style. So I'm aware that I have an insecure attachment style. So that is an insecure attachment style isn't the healthiest attachment style. A healthy attachment style would be secure attachment. So I have an insecure attachment style. So I hold my hands up to that. I have worked on that over the years and I continue to work on it. Because obviously in any insecure attachment styles is not as healthy, obviously, as a healthy, secure person. So I'm constantly trying to work on that with myself before I even attempt to get into a relationship with anyone. I had worked on myself before this last relationship. I was in the romantic relationship. So the romantic relationship was over 4 weeks ago now. So yesterday it was like 4 weeks exactly till on the 1st of August I'd been, free of them for 4 weeks. I left, and then yesterday on the 1st of August was a year since I left my former friend. So it was actually Friday the 3rd that I left the romantic relationship of July this year. So on the 1st of August it was over that. But the 1st of August 2025 was when I was no longer friends with the person who got aggressive with me. So, yeah. I have learned a lot in the last year. I have had to be really strong. It has given me some really difficult, dark times because I have been alone a lot. But I feel like I've come out the other side now. I've come to terms with the fact that I'd probably die alone. And I'm okay with that. It took me a long, long time, a lot of months, to understand that, because I have disabilities as well. So it's not been easy. I've been doing weights a lot to strengthen my arms so I can take care of myself. I've still got sunburn on there, as you can see, from a couple of weeks ago. So I broke my spine in 2024, 3 bones in my spine. So last year when that friendship ended, I was not in a good way, in the sense that I was still having broken bones. They just done an MRI scan in August that year, which revealed that I had 3 broken bones in my spine. It was meant, I did an exercise at a business event in 2024, and originally they said I broke 2 bones in my spine. It actually ended up being 3 bones I've broken in my spine. And so I had no help with my disabilities anymore. I was weaker in body then, and so I've really worked effing hard to get my body into a better state. I have disabilities. They do fluctuate. I've got fibromyalgia. It's the book I wrote about it. If you want to grab a copy on Amazon, autobiographical self-help book. And fibromyalgia is a chronic pain condition that affects the nerves and muscle of the body. So having broken bones in my spine meant it was like stabbing me for like nearly 2 years, till March this year, from April 2024 to March this year, 2026. I need to say 27 then for some reason. I'm in the future already. And so that was really tough on me, but I managed to get myself a lot physically stronger as much as I can, but my condition fluctuates. But I try to stock up on items, and I have managed to get some shops sometimes online. I get shop on Amazon anyway. I managed to get more shop online from like Sainsbury's and things like that. I got bus pass now. They lied about the bus pass as well. My former friend lied about that. He said I couldn't get one with my disabilities, and then after I stopped being friends with them, I found out full well I could get one. And I got one because the council told me. The council actually approached me and said, because of my disabilities, you might be eligible for a small grant, which I got. And then they also told me about the train, which I knew, a third off train, because I got a train pass. But they said, oh, you could get a free bus pass. And my former friend, it was only like, I think a week before I broke up friendship with him, before he got aggressive. He told me, because I said, oh, I think I can get bus pass. I've seen other people with disabilities have them. He's like, oh, no, that's only if you're blind. I'm like, I thought you could get it anyway. He's like, no, it's just if you're blind. So I didn't even look into it. I trusted him because he helped me a lot with my disabilities, and I trusted him. And hello, Donna and James. And so, yeah, and I trusted him a lot. And he lied and said I can get one. And then I found out from my local council, who happened to message me, that yes, you can get a bus pass. And then I know, oh my God, he was lying to me about that as well. I don't know if he did that on purpose or not, but obviously, why would he want to do that? Because he used to do the shopping for me. Or I used to go with him on the bus to do shopping. So again, I had more freedom and independence and less reliance on him if I got a bus pass. Now I've got bus pass, of course I don't need them even more. But don't forget what I said. What did he say to me after he'd been aggressive? I'm worried you'll be lonely. Which I told you is manipulative and controlling. And telling me I can't get a bus pass when I could keeps me under his control, because it's like, oh, you'll need me for your shopping. Won't be able to live without. He didn't say I'll need him for my shopping and won't be able to live without him. But it's another kind of like, whether he did on purpose or not, I do not know. But he is an addict of like public transport in the sense of like train spotting, bus spotting. Hi Donna, nice to see you. Thanks for your support. So the fact that he's like, he literally knows different bus routes off the top of his head. He knows like numbers of buses and trains. The fact that he was avid bus spotter and knew all about the buses, I find it very hard to believe that he didn't know that I could get a free disabled bus pass. And if he didn't know that, he shouldn't have said it with certainty and being definite about it. So he lied. So in the end, he was lying a lot. And it's horrible, absolutely horrible. Do you know what I mean? I hate liars. And the fact he did that and literally clearly has no remorse is disgusting. The only shame he'll feel is for himself, if he does feel any shame. It won't be the fact he actually hurt me. He'll just be feeling sorry for himself, like he did on the bus. After the aggression, all he's doing is tears for himself, not for me. Feeling sorry for himself. But again, that's a very self-centered behaviour. Very self-centered. You know, these people are very self-centered. And have a very big disregard for who they hurt. And they are always the victim. Because if they're the victim, they take the onus and attention off the person who's really the victim of these types of emotional abuse. That's what it is. Let's call it what it is. People who lie are blurring the reality of the other person, which is a form of emotional abuse. This is not talked about enough. People are like, oh, it's a little lie. Everyone lies. It's like, no, they don't. I don't lie. If you lie to someone else, you are blurring their reality. Blurring their reality. That is not kind. That is abusing them. It's abusing their trust and it's abusing their emotions. And if you do that repeatedly, it's definitely emotional abuse. Right? So this has got to stop. But will people stop? No, because they're so self-centered and don't care about how they hurt other people. Romantic relationship person left. Has he got any remorse? No. None. He doesn't care who he hurt. He'll just be off to another woman soon if he's not already got one. It's just about image. Do you know what I mean? Image control. How hot am I? How wonderful am I? It's like, whatever. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm actually thriving without both of them actually in my life. I'm still getting over the romantic one because, you know, that takes a bit of getting over because that's more recent. But it's like a year later, I am alone without in-person friends, but I'm not lonely. I'm actually doing very well. I'm actually in a better mental state than I was last year when that happened. Much better mental state. I no longer have to have an imbalanced friendship where I'm the one doing most of the emotional labour in it. Emotional labour. That's not to say they didn't message me. They did message both of these people, the former friend and the romantic ex. Both of them were consistently messaging me every day. But you have to look at messages and say, what was in those messages? Were they quality messages? Were they just like little tiny 3-word messages? Were they really saying anything deep and meaningful? Always think about that when someone messages you. And so, yeah, so I'm really happy that I can celebrate a 1-year anniversary of leaving a former friend who got aggressive with me. I think this is a big, big deal. It's not easy, especially if you have disabilities yourself and you really relied on that person, because it's like all your support network just goes overnight. Literally. They were my last, I had another in-person friend, but I hadn't seen them for years in person. But we decided to mutually end that friendship because they had different values to me. As in, they, you know, wanted me to lie to them. And I said, I won't lie for anyone's comfort. You know, that's not who I am. And so, we mutually agreed to not be close friends anymore. I still am in touch with them because they're actually a client of mine. So, but things were mutually left with them, you know what I mean? And so I do have some contact with them for client purposes. So yeah, it's been like a very interesting year, and I'm feeling very optimistic about the future these days. I'm feeling good and relaxed in my home now here, and I think, as Matthew Hussey himself would say, it's all to play for, And I did the 5 days to mend week, and I'm currently doing the healing immersion program by Matthew Hussey in the Love Life app. So I'm doing Love Life coaching, which I'm part of his Love Life club. I did 5 days to mend with Matthew Hussey, and now I'm doing I paid extra for the 30-day healing immersion program, this healing from heartbreak immersion program. So I'm doing that for 30 days. Do you want to see my calendar? Shall I reveal to you my calendar for this month, which has only just begun? Oh my God. Hang on a minute. I'm trying to get it off. Just look at my calendar, people. I'm like, how many days have I actually got off without coaching? Let's see. Or something going on. I mean, even that day, right, I've got to go to a Tech Exeter meetup. So I've only really got the weekends off, right? But even this weekend's got some coaching on it. So today now, which is Sunday, I'm going on my self-date to the cinema to watch Spider-Man in 3D. I cannot wait, because it's Sunday now after midnight. And that's what I mean by thriving. And I've got coaching later on. But look, really, I've got the 6th, I've got a Tech Exeter meetup, but 13th I've currently got free. But I'm in London this month as well for Love Life Live as well. Live coaching. I'm really, really working hard on myself, as you can see. Do narcissistic people do the inner work? Really? Or do they just say that they need to do inner work and know they have inner work to do, but they don't do anything about it? Do you know what I mean? Even if they admit they have inner work to do they actually do anything about it, or is it all talk? Even if they know they have patterns, do they actually try and rectify those patterns, or are they just doing verbal stuff? So you have to be very careful when people say they're going to therapy. Are they actually doing the work in the therapy? Because with avoidant people, for example, they can go to therapy but avoid actually doing the deep work because they're avoidant. So they just have surface level conversations and things like that, and how they feel. They're not actually doing the work of changing their patterns and their behaviours. So you have to bear that in mind. I even, I had a really abusive ex, and the one I told you that I can't be near because there's police had to get involved with him, and he used to do therapy and he used to wear it like a badge of honour. Like, oh, I'm in therapy. It didn't do any good for anger management, but it does no good whatsoever. So, it's like, oh, I'm doing therapy. It was like a badge of honor to make him look good, to make him look like the hero. Remember, people who've got narcissistic traits, they either need to be the hero all the time or the victim. Sandra. Oh, hello from myself and Alexander. Hello, Sandra and Alexander. Another Sandra. I'm Sandra. So thank you for being here in chat. Nice to see you. So people who have these types of traits, they usually either have to be the hero or the victim themselves. So always, if someone who's got avoidant tendencies or narcissistic traits say they're doing therapy, I'd be very careful to look into whether or not they're actually doing the deep work to change themselves. You're welcome, Sandra. Sandra and Sandra here. This is quite interesting. And so you know what I mean, because people think if someone goes to therapy that, oh, they're great and they are doing the inner work, but they're not necessarily doing the inner work, right? The work it takes to change the patterns of behavior, the work it takes to say, hey, I don't think this is good about me, and I really kind of want to work on that without shaming myself or berating myself. But to be honest, being in the Love Life Club with Matthew Hussey and all his team has helped me so much more than any therapy has ever had before. It's just been really, really great in there. I've really grown my core sense of self identity while being there, because Matthew Hussey is very good coach on confidence building. So since I've been in Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club, I've really developed even a straw. I've developed a straw. That's good, isn't it? I've developed a stronger core sense of self. I tend to put words together late at night. It's late at night in the UK here. I tend to just mash words together. It's all fun. I keep saying I might create my own fun dictionary one day of words mashed together. It'd be very interesting, wouldn't it? I wonder if we'd end up having a new language because of that. You never know. Who knows? I like writing quirky books, as you know. And going back to the topic at hand. So always look out for these types of behaviors. Always ask yourself the question, like, does the behavior reflect what they've said? So if someone says, I'm self-aware and I know I've got these patterns, I'm working on them, right? Are they actually doing that? Look for the evidence of behavioral change, not just what they say. Look for evidence of behavioral change, not just what they say. Because if their behavior doesn't change, despite what they say, they're not really doing the work, are they? If they don't change, make increments of change, they don't change in the right way as well. If they start changing in really the wrong way, it's like, what have they actually been doing? Some people, as Matthew teaches, some people change, people do change, but they don't necessarily change for the better, and often people don't change for the better, which is sad. It's really, really sad. So some people do the inner work. I have changed in my life. I know that there's things in my very, very distant past that I was not happy with about myself, that I didn't think was healthy about me. And I worked on those a lot. And I'm a lot more secure in those ways than I was before. So that was part of my anxious attachment and a lot of the abuse I sustained, you know. I know why I was like that, but I still wasn't happy with that behavior. So that was years and years ago that I changed that behavior. So well over 10 years ago now. So someone's asking me a question in chat. What do you rather, a funny guy versus a handsome guy? I would say neither, because I'm a serious person, and often there are people with narcissistic traits, for example, that are handsome and they try to be a funny guy at the same time. My ex that I split up with a few weeks ago, who had narcissistic traits, was like that. They try and put everything into a jokey manner to hide deflections and to avoid accountability and responsibility. And obviously, he kept telling me how sexy or who was all the time. Do you know what I mean? So I don't want either of those, really. I'm a serious person. I take my life very seriously, but I have fun at the same time, and some people find me funny because of my yummy foods videos, for example. But that doesn't harm anyone. When you're funny at someone else's expense, when you're making fun of people, that's a warning for narcissistic traits when you're making fun of people. So yeah, I guess we should be with people who are actively trying to make us happier. We should be with people who are compatible for us. That's who we should be with. So if people are trying to make us happier by being a people pleaser, not being genuine, then that isn't good. If they want to make us happier because our happiness matters, because they genuinely care and love us and want to see us happy, and it's not at their own expense, it's not something they're going to resent us for or regret later, then yes. But we always have to be looking, even as people ourselves, if I want to make my partner happy, is this going to be at my own expense and something I'm going to resent them for later on or not? Because if we're just doing people pleasing, again, we're kind of not being healthy. So we have to get out of the habit of people pleasing. Yeah, relationships about the joy of giving to someone, but not giving so much that you lose your own sense of self and core identity, and that you are doing it for the wrong reasons. Because if you're doing it to fawn and people please, I've learnt over the years, that's not actually healthy. And it can be a form of deception if you're not really wanting to do it because you want to do it from your core. So if someone's doing it because they want something out of the person, a certain reaction out of the person, and they're doing it for selfish reasons, you got to be very careful of that. So if you're just a people pleaser and do everything what your partner says without having any say in it and without expressing your feelings and emotions, that's not healthy. So I hope that makes sense. Modifying attitudes, behavior change. Yeah. So it's important that when you're with someone, you feel the empathy for them and you feel like you want them to be happy, and you'd want to a certain extent make that person happy. But if you're having to make that person happy at your own expense, that's when it's problematic. And we have to have difficult conversations, and I didn't used to be good at doing this. Since I've been in the Love Life Club, I've had to practice having difficult conversations with people. And so I come to understand that healthy relationships are how we deal with conflicts and differences, attitudes and stuff. And I'm still getting used to this. I'm not fully used to it. It's not something I really like to do fully. I'm still cautious about it in some respects. I still don't probably fully do it in some respects. You value duty, reliability, focus on doing things properly, serious person. That's deep. Yeah, I do value serious relationships. I'm not the guy who was in a romantic relationship with me, who I ended the relationship with at the beginning of this month, had a lot of narcissistic traits. And in the beginning of our relationship, he was like, or dating, I should say, it wasn't, we was like dating and then in a relationship very quickly, but he was like joking all the time, and that's what he wanted. I think he wanted a relationship where he could be with a woman that would be a doormat, I think, where everything would just be cute and fluffy and no responsibility, no accountability whatsoever, and it would all be this jokey, light-hearted fun thing, which, like, if you're dating in the beginning of dating, ideally it should be fun, right, and more light-hearted. But if someone's got a number of red flags like lying, gaslighting, and all these type of things, you have to bring it to their attention, because that's not acceptable behavior, which I did within the first week. I spotted all this within the first week, and usually you should run from that type of relationship. You shouldn't even give them another chance, but I did give them a chance to put their unhealthy behaviors right. I wrote it all out in a Word document saying this has got to change. It's not acceptable to lie and to gaslight and do these types of behaviors. But I gave him a chance to put it right, but he didn't. But he was very jokey. Like, even when I was talking about trauma, he would start laughing and stuff, which is very disrespectful, very inappropriate. But people with narcissistic traits, they laugh at inappropriate things. They're usually very sarcastic and love being sarcastic, because that's how they can manipulate and control and flip the script on you. But he knew very quickly I was not having narcissism. I'm like, we're not having narcissism. No, I wish I wasn't having narcissism. Because, well, he did know that after a week, because I said this is not acceptable behavior. I didn't actually say he's a narcissist or even that he has narcissistic traits. But I did point out that these are like usually considered narcissistic traits. But I didn't actually say you have narcissistic traits. I just said they're unhealthy behaviors. But yeah, he was laughing inappropriately when I was sharing my trauma and stuff. But I noticed he was saying something about liking sarcasm. I'm like, shut that down right away. I'm like, I don't like sarcasm. And I kept having to say to him, you're laughing really inappropriately now. It's not nice for me. And so over time, he stopped laughing like that. But of course, then I don't think he found the relationship as fun anymore, because he wanted to joke. But when it's joking inappropriate at my expense and making me feel hurt and pain, that's just horrible. So I kept saying to him, I'm not a jokey person, I'm a serious person. Now, I'm not this jokey person that he is. So clearly incompatible. But, a lot of narcissistic people with narcissistic traits, they like to hide behind jokes, because that's how they can put you down and belittle you and be unempathetic and have no accountability and responsibility. And he said something that's very, very disturbing, which I really felt that my life was in danger because of, and for possible violence. And that is, once he said to me in a voice message, I'm gonna bash the barber if he doesn't do my hair cut right. And I was in absolute shock, and I literally messaged him and said, I'm really concerned about this message you sent me, because if you can say that about barber, just about a haircut, it means you could possibly be physically violent towards me, and I'm really concerned about it now. And so he didn't say he disagreed with what he said. He goes, oh, but the barber didn't do my haircut right last time. But do you see how extreme a reaction that is for someone who, we're just talking about haircut. We're not talking about the end of the world, the end of a life. We're not talking about someone who's harming him. We're talking about a haircut. Yeah, exactly, a haircut. And he used the word bash. This isn't a little word. This is bash, for God's sake. You know what I mean? And I was so shocked. My nervous system was so in fight or flight and worried about my own safety. I'm thinking, if he can talk like that, I know that he once was violent towards someone at school when he was 15, but he said he'd never done anything like that. So I thought, you know, okay, when you're at school and you're a teenager, you might do things that you wish you never done or regret, or something that he never said he regretted it though, or wished he hadn't done it. But he might, you know, you might do things that maybe, you know, you don't want to pay the rest of your life for. But when I heard that he said this about the barber just cutting his hair, and it's such an extreme, aggressive reaction to that, I'm like, oh my God, this guy could possibly get violent towards you, Sandra. Because if he can say that just about barber, think of what he could flip out about, even in just a conversation, when things are not going his way, when he doesn't get what he wants in life. So that was really, really telling and very big red flag for me. And that was hard for me to even continue the relationship at that point with him, because I was like really worried about my safety. And it's a red flag. If you Google, like, if someone makes a comment, lack of self-esteem. Well, the thing is, with people with narcissistic traits, have actually got very shallow ego. They've got very fragile ego, I should say. But it was to do with his image. He's image control management. He has to have a certain image, and he has to have the image that he wants to portray to the world, even though he's living two different lives. He's like got two different faces. He's all curated in his image on social media that's partly false. It's not even him. Who, you know, it means getting stuff off ChatGPT. But yeah, he wanted this specific haircut. I mean, I've had my hair cut wrong before, but I never ever go that, you know, I'm going to bash the hairdresser. I would never say anything like that, because it's an extreme aggressive reaction to something that doesn't warrant it. And so it's just like, do you know what I mean? It's totally uncalled for, but it's very, very bad. And instead of him like showing any like concern for what he said, he basically flipped onto me and goes, oh yeah, I guess with your trauma history, then I shouldn't be mentioning it. I won't do it again. So again, he flipped the script onto me. This is what narcissistic people do. They flip the script onto you and make you the problem. It's like, instead of just saying, you know, like, you're right, that's really bad, I should look at my behavior, and I should like think that, why am I being so aggressive about a haircut? Like, what is it about someone doing my hair wrong that just makes me feel so aggressive towards them? I feel like bashing them. And you know, first of all, he turned it into a joke, goes, I was just joking. I said, well, I don't think joking about physical violence is funny. You know, anyone that jokes about physical violence is very concerning to me. And then he made me the problem by, you know, because he was constantly flipping the script, and instead of taking accountability and responsibility that that's not good behaviour, and there's something seriously wrong internally for him to even be like that, then, you know, it's all about making it a joke to deflect responsibility and accountability, and then making me the problem. Oh, I guess with your trauma history, I shouldn't have mentioned it. I won't mention it again. So again, making me the problem. So it was just really, really, really bad. So this is what people with narcissistic traits do, and I'm saying this to help you in your own life if you're struggling to decipher where someone's got narcissistic traits. I'm not diagnosing people with narcissistic personality disorder. I'm not a medical professional. That's not up to me to do. But there are patterns of behaviour that are narcissistic traits, which can severely cause you a lot of emotional abuse and problems. So I think it's very, very important that people, you know, people understand that. And so yeah, I just wanted to help you see this. It's not easy for me to talk about this stuff, and people might be like, well, why are you talking about this on social media? But I think it's important to bring it to people's attention, because so many people who do get emotionally abused by narcissistic people, they stay quiet because they've been made to feel that they're the problem, and that something is wrong with them, and they should be ashamed to even get in relationships with these types of people. Yes, it's not great. I got into a relationship or a friendship with these types of people. But at the end of the day, it happened, didn't it? I can't deny my own reality. It happened. What am I doing about it? I'm working on myself. I can't control that other person and what they do or be responsible for their behaviour. I'm not, and I would never try to be. Right? But I'm responsible for... I don't agree that everyone's a narcissist. I don't actually agree with that. He should have bought a shaver. He should have bought a shaver. I'm not sure what you mean by that. He should have bought a shaver. I'm not sure what you mean by that. He was a clean shaven guy. So I'm not sure what you even meant by that. Both of these people were, so I'm not even sure. Right, anyway, so I hope that's like really helped you in your life, and done his hair himself. Oh, now I get you. He should have bought a shaver and done his hair himself rather than said bash the barber. Oh, right, I wasn't sure what you were talking about. Sorry. I thought you were talking about when I was in the relationship with him, he should have bought a shaver to shave his own face or something. I get you, Sandra, sorry. I was a bit like, it's because I've got a lot of people in chat writing some things that have got nothing to do with this conversation, and other people like writing things. Right, okay. And done his hair himself, yeah. But he wanted to look like his idol. That's what he did. He wanted to look like his idol and have the same haircut as him. Because this person he wants to model, and I'm like, I don't have that idol or person I want to model. I just like being myself, because he's not authentic. I am authentic. He tries to copy other people all the time. I don't. So yeah, asexuality is a sexual orientation that is the lack of sexual attraction, and it means that I don't get the need, urge, or want for partner's sexual intercourse. But that is not what this conversation is about. So, who was his idol? Dr. Evil? No, actually, it was Ronaldo. You know Ronaldo, football player. So yeah, but I can see the Dr. Evil resemblance. But yeah, Ronaldo, who's actually apparently a good guy. Apparently, I don't know enough about the guy, but anyway. So I've already said I'm not a medical professional. I've already announced that a number of times throughout this live stream. So. My background history, I did actually work for the NHS, but not as a doctor. So, oh dear, didn't need to be in a relationship with him to know he's a narcissist. No, but I didn't know he was a narcissistic person until I got into a relationship with him. Because he didn't show the side of him that is copying other people and being dishonest. And he showed to the public, he is inspirational, he is motivational, he is fit, he is kind, he is caring. Do you know what I mean? And he does inspirational quotes every day, given to him by ChatGPT, that he doesn't even believe in. Going to the hairdressers, asking to look like Ronaldo should have been a dead giveaway. He did this while I was in the relationship with him. Not before I was in the relationship with him. Do you think I'd have got into a relationship with him if I knew he was going to say I'll bash the barber? This is when I was already in a relationship with him. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I didn't, you know, I find out he's inauthentic. But that's not the way he comes across on his dating profile or when you first speak to him. He lied. He did a lot of lying. So if someone feeds you a lot of lies, you have to, you know, you don't know they're lying, do you? He made out he was healed from his last relationship, and he left his last relationships in peace, which wasn't the actual real case. I find out later in the relationship. Do you know what I mean? After a while. So, and he kept comparing me to his ex, so clearly he wasn't healed from that. Do you know what I mean? But anyway, the point is, he was narcissistic. I got into a relationship, and there we go. And I got out of it again within 3 weeks. So I hold my hands up to the fact I got into a relationship with someone who's narcissistic. But I got out of it again, and I'm proud of myself for that. So, but there are actually people, a lot of people in the world that do have narcissistic traits, unfortunately. So, yeah, I have got a British accent. My boyfriend and I could be having a terrible day, but he will smile for a pic and put it on Facebook for the world as if it is a good day. Is that narcissism? My boyfriend and I could be having a terrible day, but he will smile for a pic and put it onto Facebook for the world as if it is a good day. Is that narcissism? That's a really good question. I mean, the guy that I was in a relationship with, he wouldn't put me on his social media at all. He kept saying he would, and I asked him for a timeline on that, but I don't actually think he would. So he was leading a literal double life. He was pretending he was single online. I met his housemate, one of his housemates on video camera. I met one of his work colleagues as well on video camera. So it's not like I wasn't in his life at all in a reality, but he didn't even put me online. So I'm not, I would say that might be an amber flag. So an amber flag is something that could be a red flag, but it's not actually necessarily a red flag. But I would pay attention to that. Because obviously that is curating an image that is not actually the truth of this situation. But by the same token, people can be having a terrible day and not necessarily show that on social media. There's lots of people that do that and not necessarily a narcissist or narcissistic. So I would just see, I mean, does he do that regularly? Like, is that a regular common occurrence? Like you having a really bad day and all of a sudden he's snapping a picture like you're really happy. If he's consistently doing that, that would be a red flag to me. But if he's just posting pictures whenever you're together, whether you're having a good day or bad day, then I wouldn't see that so much. I would just park it as I have to watch that. But if it's, you know, because people do post videos and pictures when they're having a bad day, do you know what I mean? They still do it, especially if they used to be on social media a lot. And they don't necessarily want to say every single bad day they're having. But I would pay close attention to that. I don't think to get completely worried about it. But do you know what I mean? If they're carefully curating their image all the time, it depends. But you know what I mean? A lot of narcissistic people, they don't even put their partner on social media. So the fact he's putting you on social media is a good thing. But the fact he's making out, you know, right, actually, I just want to reread that. It says, my boyfriend and I could be having a terrible day, but he will smile for a pic and put it on Facebook. So is he not including you in his pic? If he's not including you in his pic and he's just making out to the world that he's happy and he's smiling, that is something a bit worrying. Like, it's almost like he's telling the world that he wants people to see him in a certain way. And if he's making you feel shit behind closed doors, then I would pay attention to that. It's definitely, I would say, yeah, is he putting you in the picture or is it just him? I mean, my ex was like that all the time. He was just posting stuff for his fans all the time, you know, and it was all like, you know, inspirational, you know, like caring towards his fans and everything. Behind closed doors, was not like that with me. I mean, it's not like he was never, ever showed me any care because I wouldn't even been with him in the first place. Do you know what I mean? Like, with any people that have narcissistic traits, there's usually some good things about them. That's why it's hard to leave a relationship, because they do have some good things about them. Especially acts of service and gift giving, actually, is quite good with them. It's really weird. Because it's transactional. Usually, if they give you something that's to sweeten you up, butter you up, make you feel good, so you behave better with them a lot of the time. And just because it's something that makes them feel useful and helpful, which can boost their ego as well. So, but, you know, often it's to get something. So, yeah, I would just pay attention to that. To me, that's an amber flag of possible, could go red flag. Electric shaver haircut. Thank you, Sandra, for saying electric shaver haircut. I'm with you now. When you said electric shaver, I was just thinking about the face. Real eyes, real eyes, real eyes. Yep. So, right. Okay. I hope the right guy finds you. Thank you. So are you living on your own now? I've always lived on my own for years. Even when I was in relationships, I never lived with the people. I've lived on my own for a lot of years. over a third of my life I've lived on my own. I'm trying to work out what third of my life is. What's a third of my life? I'm not interested in my birth certification. I don't even take much notice of it. I would say nearly half of my life, but yeah, I don't think it's quite half of my life. It's not half of my life. It's a lot of years. It's a lot of years. So even when I've been in relationships, I haven't lived with a guy for a lot of years. And I've lived on my own. Like in the last relationship I had, long-term relationship, not short-term, long-term, that ended in 2011. And I did live with that person. It was a 8.5-year relationship in total. And I lived with them for the first 1.5 years. And then, well, actually, yeah, 1.5 years. I think I did. Actually, I met them when they lived upstairs. I was friends with them for a while. No, I only lived with them for 6 months, sorry. Because they, oh, no, I lived in a new place for 6 months. We lived together for a while before we moved to that place. But I knew them because they lived upstairs. I tried to block out this person I don't want to keep thinking about. But anyway, I was with them in total for 8.5 years. But it was only for 6 months. I was living with them in a new flat. He lived upstairs. That's how I met him. And he moved down to mine. And then we got a flat together. But it was horrendous. And then we split up. And he stalked me for 6 months. And then I went to tell him to leave me alone, and I got back with him for 7 years, which is not a good thing to do. He's very abusive. And anyway, that ended in 2011. But for the whole of the 7 years prior to 2011, including 2011, I should say, sorry. So 7 years including 2011, I didn't live with him. I lived on my own. I actually, because when in the 6 months we split up, I moved into my own place. And I've lived on my own ever since. So I like living on my own. So I'm very self-sufficient, actually. I can look after myself very well. I've looked after myself for years through lots of hardship, lots of pain. So I'm actually very good. So even though I'm alone, I'm not lonely. I actually get on very well with myself. I like myself a lot. I've curated a lot of self-love. I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea because I don't expect to be, and I don't need to be. I don't need everyone to like me, but obviously you need to like yourself and love yourself as much as possible and enjoy being with yourself. So you need to work on yourself to be happy with yourself, to be able to be comfortable living on your own and being on your own. But I love my life because I live an upside down life. So I work in the night usually and sleep in the day. It's great. I write my books, I do my YouTubing, it's wonderful. I live an upside down life and it's so much better than the normal life. I just don't get on with, when I go to like my parents sometimes and they live this normal life and go to bed at normal times, it's really weird to me. I just love living my life. Like I live my life like a teenager, even with myself, like a romantic teenager. It's great. I'm going on a self-date later today. I'm watching Spider-Man in 3D, people. I cannot wait. I'm super excited. Super excited. I got my ticket. I got my ticket. Doing a 3D performance. Anyway, all the violent crime, especially sexual crime, has become much worse since Keir Starmer and Andy Burnham have been in power. If you report it to the police now, they seem to gaslight you. Andy Burnham just took over, hasn't he? From Keir Starmer. Hi to people in chat. Right, okay. So... Right. Okay. Community safe zone. Oh, right, that's nice. A community safe zone. This live stream has been designated an LGBTQ plus safe zone. Everyone is welcome. Thank you for openly identifying as one of the LGBT plus. Keep the pride in you. Thank you so much for the hugs and love. Yes. So yes, asexuality is part of the LGBT plus spectrum. LGBT plus QIA. So A standing for asexual, and often people nowadays say it stands for aromantic or aromantic, as most people pronounce it, agender. And some people think it stands for allies, but it definitely stands for asexuals and asexuality. So I'm asexual in sexual orientation, which is a minority sexual orientation. And I talk about my asexual life on this channel, as well as dating, relationships, confidence, self-love, self-care. Those are my 5 main topics I talk about. And I do love being asexual. I discovered I'm asexual in 2014. So I'm really like proud to be asexual. I'm proud that I don't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever. For me, it feels really, really good. And I've been sex free now since my last long-term relationship ended in 2011. And if I do go on dating sites, then I put that I'm asexual and what that means for me. And I'm very open and honest about it. Like, I don't have sex in a relationship. I like kissing a lot, which a lot of asexuals don't like much kissing. And I like holding hands, physical affection with clothes on. So, yeah. Yeah, being your own boss. Thank you, Sandra. Yeah, I love being my own boss. So, yeah, I really enjoy it. You know, like asexual, like I said, is a sexual orientation that's based on the lack of sexual attraction. Think of the A as absence of sexual attraction, but a lack of sexual attraction is the original definition, because there's two types of asexuals. One is a pure asexual who doesn't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever, and one's a grey asexual. So these people, I'm a pure asexual, lack sexual attraction, but in different ways. You can have the full lacking sexual attraction, as in none of it, which is what I do. I'm a pure asexual. I lack all sexual attraction. And then you have the grey asexuals who lack the usual sexual attraction, but they still do have some sexual attraction, but only under limited, rare, or specific circumstances. Or they experience sexual attraction, but not enough to want to act on it. Because lack has the two meanings. It means not any of or not enough of. So I think that's important. People call me pansexual and asexual. I don't conform to labels, but just curious what they're actually saying. Matty wants... Right, okay. People call me pansexual and asexual. I don't conform to labels, but just curious what they're actually saying. Okay. So a pansexual person is someone who's sexually attracted to people regardless of their gender, usually. So someone who's pansexual is sexually attracted to a person regardless of the way they look, usually their gender identity. They're more attracted to the person's personality. But an asexual person is someone who lacks sexual attraction. So someone who experiences sexual attraction is the opposite to someone who experiences no sexual attraction. However, there is grey asexuals, right? So grey asexuals are on the more sexual end of the asexual spectrum, but they're also identifying their own right as well to a certain extent. So someone who's grey asexual, who does experience sexual attraction, they might identify as a sexual person and asexual in the sense that they are sexually attracted to all genders, but only romantically attracted to one specific gender. So some people end up identifying as grey asexual, you know, and they identify as heterosexual grey asexual, for example. But it's very confusing. I don't actually think it's great because it blurs the reality between what asexuality actually is. And it blurs the reality between asexuality and being sexual. So I think it's very, very difficult, because if someone experiences sexual attraction to anyone, they're not actually asexual. But there's something called the split attraction model that's known in asexuality. And the split attraction model is you can be attracted to someone sexually, but attracted to another gender or genders just asexually. And so that's how people combine the two. And I'm seeing this more and more frequently, that people are combining asexual with sexual, but they're actually opposites as well. So it gets very, very, very confusing. And particularly for someone outside of the asexual spectrum, they don't understand the difference. And I think that's a bit damaging to people who are purely asexual, in the sense that sexuals don't understand the difference. And even I struggle to understand why so many people are identifying as both. But I do understand it, because if someone's grey asexual, for example, and they're demisexual falls under the grey asexual part of the asexual spectrum. So demisexual is someone who can only experience sexual attraction when a deep emotional bond has been formed, usually maintained and sustained. This is not the same as someone who has a preference for emotional connection before having sex. right? So they can't experience it. So usually they have zero sexual attraction until they formed a deep emotional connection with someone. That usually has to be reciprocated, is my understanding, maintained and sustained. So once they've experienced that sexual attraction, they're a demisexual. They experience that sexual attraction, but it might be just to the opposite gender. So they might identify as demisexual heterosexual. But they might still identify as asexual because demisexual is on the more sexual end of the asexual spectrum. So they might call themselves a demisexual heterosexual, or a grey sexual heterosexual. They might just say I'm a heterosexual asexual. And this is how it gets all confused and blurred, and it's not very good if you're trying to figure things out and trying to understand someone's sexuality better. So it gets very, very, very confusing for people. Very confusing. And so I actually come in to one of my groups and they're like, oh, they were going to post about them being heterosexual. And I said, and it wasn't a grey sexual group. And I said, I'd just be mindful that some people could get confused about that. And they said, well, I'm only attracted to the opposite gender. I'm only attracted, and because they do experience some sexual attraction, then that's why they're identified as heterosexual. I do a grey asexual and demisexual dating group, so I understand that some people in the grey asexual and demisexual arena, if you like, space, they use sexual terms like heterosexual or pansexual as well as asexual, because they might be sexually attracted to like just one gender, but romantically attracted to two genders. So they might identify as heterosexual but biromantic. So it gets confusing. I think as time goes on, you're going to end up with more and more people identifying as both, which is going to be super crazy, because like, how do we differentiate then from the asexuals that don't ever want sex, don't like it, don't need it, and literally experience no sexual attraction, to everyone else that's still terming themselves with a sexual label as well? That's why it's my mission to get asexuality recognised as a sexual orientation in its own right throughout the globe, so no asexual has to live in fear of ridicule ever again, because obviously the people that experience sexual attraction, it is still really difficult for them. The ones that experience it infrequently, not rarely, only under specific circumstances, because they can't just fit into the usual dating mould. They can't go onto a dating site and just be like, oh, like I'll just jump into bed with someone, or I'll just like have sex with you after so many weeks, because they need to form that deep emotional connection to have sexual attraction. Usually they don't want to have sex unless they've got that sexual attraction. You can have sex without experiencing sexual attraction, but a lot of people who don't experience sexual attraction don't want the sex because they don't experience sexual attraction. But there are some asexuals that don't experience sexual attraction but will still have sex because they like to feel close physically to their partner. They don't mind it as an activity to do, and they're comfortable enough with it, if that makes sense. So yeah, so I'm going back through chat now. I'm on my phone. So let me see if I've missed any. Trust yourself before you trust others. Yes. Trusting yourself is a process as well. I've been brought up not to trust myself, so it's something I've been working on since 2021. Yep. Year after COVID, 2021. Year after COVID started, I should say. So yeah, so because I've been brought up not to trust myself and my own judgment. So I've been working on that for like the last 5 years. So it's really difficult to admit that, but it's the truth. Like I said, I'm working on myself. So, but I do trust myself a lot more than I used to. And I do, and I made a process of it. Like, so I made my own, I was brought up not to trust myself or my own decisions. So when I realised that in 2021, I then started making more decisions for myself, more often, bigger decisions with bigger amounts of money involved as well. The amount of money I've spent on my own personal development and professional development investment is a lot of money. A lot of money. And people would usually be like, oh, err on the side of caution. I never asked anyone. I just went and did it for myself. So that's how I practice like trusting myself. I'm saying this to help you in case you're struggling as well with this. How to trust yourself is to keep your word to yourself as well. This is why I do self-dating a lot. Every week, usually, I go to the cinema and self-date, because that is breeding and instilling trust into myself. I'm saying I'm going to do it. Self-dating is intentional. It's not the same as, oh, I grab a sandwich at the supermarket. Self-dating is all about being intentional and setting dates in your diary, or if you go regularly as a habit every week, then you don't necessarily need to put it in a diary as long as you keep your word to yourself. But building trust is all about keeping your word to yourself, doing something regardless of what anyone else says, thinks, or does, taking your life into your own hands, making decisions, making bigger decisions, better decisions for yourself, spending money, investing in yourself that you think is a good investment in yourself, regardless of what other people may say or think, and pushing ahead with your life and being your authentic self and being more of your authentic self and showing that to the world. This is how you build a lot of self-trust. And the more you end up being right about people as well, the more that builds trust as well. That's why I was able to leave this last relationship, romantic relationship, more easily. And it's why I was able to walk away from the former friend that got aggressive with me. Because I had to trust myself that I'll be okay on my own, that I'm better off on my own than being with someone who's aggressive with me and got narcissistic traits, and I'm better off with on my own than with the recent ex that had narcissistic traits as well. So I'm calmer in my nervous system, happier, and when I see my life getting better and I see that I trust myself and I see the work that I'm doing is paying off, even if it's in small increments, where it's personally or professionally, I feel really good. Like, this channel has had over 2.5 million views now. And I never in a million years dreamed I'd even get to 100,000 views in my lifetime, let alone over 2.5 million views, right? That's all about trusting myself, trusting that I understand myself, what my viewers like, what I like to put out there, because I won't put videos out there unless I actually like them myself, which other people would do, because they, people who are narcissistic do it just for likes and views, which is what my romantic last ex is doing. He's just doing it to get views and get monetized eventually and attention and all that lot. I'm not going to say that I don't like some attention. That would be not true. I do like attention, but not to the point where I have to have attention to be validated by other people like all the time and reassurance all the time. I used to need reassurance and validation a lot in my past, but I worked on that a lot. So like, I'll dress up for myself on a self date. If people think I look good, that's great. If they don't, I'm fine. I don't need them to think I look good. They might think that looks horrible on you. They might think I don't like your body shape or whatever. I'm okay with that, because I'm not here to people please. I'm here to be authentic and real and show up. So trusting yourself is about trusting how you look for yourself and that you look good for yourself, and be confident in yourself and your own body for yourself. I hope that makes sense. So is sexual attraction to personality or appearance for me? I'm just me. So is sexual attraction to personality and or appearance for me in just me? Mattie's asking. A lot of people in the world are pansexual, and you know, if someone said you're pansexual and asexual, you should do research on it. You shouldn't just listen to what other people say. You should decide for yourself what sexual orientation you are, not what other people tell you are. If they've made a suggestion, I would research it. But people who are pansexual tend to be attracted to multiple genders, not necessarily every single person, but they're usually mostly attracted to personality rather than what gender a person is. So for example, a pansexual person could be attracted to male, female, gender fluid, non-binary, demi-boy, demi-girl, agender. Does that make sense? Because it's more important the person's like heart, soul and personality than their actual physical appearance. I'm a heteroromantic. I get romantically attracted to guys, just guys. And I get aesthetically attracted to guys, not every guy obviously, and have a lot of other attractions for guys. But I don't get attracted to other genders. I hope that makes sense. There is only a woman attracted to a man and a man attracted to a woman. Anything else to me is a mental issue. Well, that's not true. That's actually very rude. So, it's not a mental issue at all. Do you understand that intersex people have been around for years? They used to be called hermaphrodite. Right? Intersex person is born with the genitalia of male and female. So there has never ever been just male and female. But it's not talked about. They used to be known as a hermaphrodite or hermaphrodite. Hermaphrodite, that's what they used to be known as. The term these days is intersex, and that's what the I stands for in LGBT plus QIA, intersex. So they're born with male and female genitalia. They're not a man, they're not a woman. They're who they define themselves as. And they've got both genitalia. So those always, like, you can say what you like in your opinion, you're entitled to your opinion, but at the end of the day, there is a physical difference with some people where they have both male and female genitalia, like hybrid. So there's never only been two genders only with each having their own genitalia, and that's all the options there have ever been. And there's all, you know, in terms of like sexual, you know, like sexual genders, sex genders. Do you know what I mean? And it's not a mental issue at all. It's very, very rude. You know, gay people are valid, lesbian people are valid. You know, however much people want to ignore these things, it's true. There are guys that love guys. There are guys that are attracted to guys. There's women that's attracted to women. So you can say what you like for your opinion, but it's not actual fact, because you can just see in the world there's gay guys that are attracted to each other. There's lesbians that are attracted to each other. So it's not actually true, is it? That's why labels don't work. Every human is unique and can't be labelled into a box. Well, labels do work for some people, Matty. I like labels because they help. They help me to identify myself how I want to be identified for. You can use labels, but you use labels in a way that you want to use them, not other people telling you and putting labels on you. Every human is unique. But just because you put a label doesn't mean to say you're putting yourself in a box. Because someone is asexual, that, you know, there's multiple different types of asexuals on the asexual spectrum. Multiple different types, and everyone's got their own nuances. Me saying I'm a heteromantic is not the only thing I identify as. That's my main thing. But I'm a heteromantic, hyperromantic, hyperkisser. Got grey areas, so sometimes I add grey A, but I'm not actually a textbook grey A because I experience zero sexual attraction. And I'm an asexual cougar. I like younger guys. Even though I'm not 50 yet, I like younger guys. So I like my labels. They are who I am. They're what I define myself as. They're what I define myself as. And it's good for other people, especially if you're on dating sites or come into contact, because other people can identify if you're the person that they would want to get to know and if they can relate to you. Labels can be very, very useful. And people I find that don't like labels are the ones that are confused about their identity, ones that like polyamorous relationships, for example, because they don't like to be tied down to a specific binary maybe as well. And people who are like don't feel they fit in quite anywhere. So therefore that they don't feel comfortable labeling themselves because they feel like they don't fit in anywhere and they don't understand the sexual orientation. But if you're confident in sexual orientation and you know that if you decide that actually this doesn't fit me because I don't relate to this anymore, I've changed or whatever has happened in your life, or I never really identified or I didn't realise there's this label, then you can just change your label identification. But to be honest, asexuality is not a label. It's a sexual orientation. Pansexuality is not a label. It's a sexual orientation. Homosexuality is not a label. It's a sexual orientation. Bisexuality is not a label. It's a sexual orientation. These are sexual orientations. When people just say it's a label, it's not. It's a sexual orientation. So we need to remember this. Does anyone go around saying, oh, we're labeling heterosexuals? Is that heterosexual? So, yeah. Okay, let's see. Right. Okay. So some people really love labels. How do you know he is the one you want to get married to? I don't know who that question's for. I don't want to marry anyone. I've never wanted to, like for years I haven't wanted to marry. Years ago I was engaged, but that was a long time ago. So I don't know who that question is for, but I don't want to marry anyone. Even if I love the person, I don't want to get married. I'm quite clear about that. I don't want marriage and I don't want kids. I haven't wanted kids since I'm 15 years old and nothing's going to change. Actually, my asexual perspectives, but there's quite a number of asexuals in here that also are kid-free and don't want marriage. Some do, some don't. But I'm not interested in marriage. I don't like the concept of it. Sandra, physical intimacy triggers brain changes through key chemicals. Shares emotional vulnerability, ongoing communication. Yeah, so people bond through physical intimacy. They bond through sex, but they also can bond through kissing, holding hands, physical touch. So yeah, so physical intimacy does, it is a chemical. I remember when I was at school, oh my God, she was chemistry teacher, but she also taught biology for one lesson as well. And I was having this lesson and she's like, oh, when people fall out of love, it's because their chemistry changes. And it was the most unromantic thing I'd ever heard in my life. And I'm like, oh my gosh. How unromantic is that? Like, just to say, like, they basically said love is a chemical reaction. And when you fall out of love with someone, it's because your chemicals change in your body, basically. And that's how they defined it. I'm like, okay. And I've remembered that for the rest of my life. I learned that at school in my teens. Like, this is so unromantic, isn't it? It's good if you want to fall out of love with someone, but try to get someone to fall out of love with someone just like that. Usually, unless they never truly loved them properly in the first place, it's not that easy. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. You hear of people who no longer feel love for that person or they've fallen out of love. But I don't think that's nearly as common as people who love people for years of their life. It's 1:40 a.m. Young lady. Oh, I feel like I've been told off. It's a calm night, mind. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for all the emojis as well I see go up. It's a young lady. Thank you. He made my night calling me a young lady. I am a young lady. I've actually got my night shirt underneath this top, believe it or not. It's a Pooh night shirt, Winnie the Pooh night shirt, but I just put it on because I thought it's better than the night shirt, which can be a little bit see-through maybe. Shocking. I pulled the sleeves up and now I pull them down. I'm like, I got pink coming out. Why not? And calm night mind. I live in the night and sleep in the day. It's so good. I'm pumped at night. Have you not noticed how much energy I've got at night? I'm pumped. They get me up in the morning. I do get up in the morning sometimes because I have to. It's like, I'm not so good in the morning. I'm much more pumped at night. This is my time, people. This is the night time. Woohoo! I'm pumped. I'm pumped. I love my life. Matty, I haven't always had that self-loving relationship with myself, but started about 4 years ago and talking about identity, who I am, etc. I developed BPD, bipolar disorder, etc. because of my experiences. So identity hasn't been developed. Oh, right. Okay, Matty. Thank you for explaining that. Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that in this space. I actually coached someone with bipolar disorder, so I do personal one-to-one coaching. I'm not going to go into their personal details, obviously, because I can't do that, but I just thought you should know. So I'm really proud of you for working on your self-love. That's really good. So yeah, so if your identity hasn't been developed, that'll be why that you don't like labels, because you don't really understand which ones would feel you would apply to you. So and it takes, you have to have ownership as well when you're identifying a certain way. There's a level of accountability, personal responsibility, and ownership, if you know what I mean. And some people want to avoid that, but to become healthier, we have to kind of lean into that. But I understand how bipolar disorder can make you feel disassociated as well from yourself, I believe. And because I've known other people that have that as well. I think it can make you feel disassociated from yourself. Depersonalization, do you get anything like that? Which can make it harder to understand yourself and your identity in general as well in life and your place in life. Is that right? Have I got that right? So yeah, I mean, there is also something called ace flux. And most people don't even know about this. So ace flux is a term where someone fluctuates either between the asexual spectrum and the sexual spectrum. So in between asexual and sexual, or they fluctuate up and down the asexual spectrum. It's called ace flux. So a lot of people don't know that. Natural is the best. Thank you. You're really helping me lay down this massive log. I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure if you're being rude or if you... I don't even want to say that. Sexuality has always been fluid. It's interesting you should say that, because in my Asexual Perspectives book, that's what a lot of people's perspectives are in this book. I don't personally have that perspective. My phone is like, was playing up then. Sorry, I lost connection for a bit. So I didn't ever personally have that sexuality has always been fluid, but there are people in my Asexual Perspectives book that conclude that they believe sexuality is fluid. So there are a lot of people that would agree with you, Matty, in this book. You can get this on Amazon, by the way. Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories. Love, Life and Sex, A Celebration of Asexual Diversity. You probably can't read it because it's backwards, but it says Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories. You can look at that on Amazon. But that's what they conclude. That's their opinion. I'm very steadfast, strong, and kind of know my own mind and know myself very well. So I feel my sexual orientation is very fixed. But I thought I was heterosexual for years. So there is a caveat to that. I thought I was heterosexual for years because obviously I was conditioned to believe I was heterosexual. You know, most people... When I say conditioned, obviously society, my parents thought I was heterosexual. That's not their fault. I mean, they didn't know about asexuality, and neither did I till 2014. So that's not their fault. Although I say not till 2014, there was actually a blogger that used to blog about sex in a healthy way or healthier way, with educational way. And they did actually at one point say to me, it sounds like I was asexual, but I took no notice of it then. I just didn't even like the word then. I didn't even look at what it was. I just said to them quickly, no, I like kissing and I don't associate sex with love. You know, I don't associate sex with love and I just love kissing. That's basically what I said. So I wasn't actually heterosexual ever. I know that now because I know, looking back at my life since being a child, and the first relationship I ever had at 6 years old with a heterosexual boy my age, that I was always asexual and never realised it. So I was born asexual and didn't realise it. So for me, like, the asexuality thing has always been there, but I didn't know. I was conditioned and brought up, and society made me think I was heterosexual when I wasn't. Plus, I mistook my high levels of arousal for sexual attraction, not realising they're two completely different things. And, yeah, now I know the difference. I'm cool. So I feel my sexual orientation is actually very fixed. My sexuality is very fixed, I guess, because I identified as heterosexual for years. So, but I feel I'm very fixed myself. You know what I mean, in some ways. Like, I feel I'm very steadfast, strong, and reliable and consistent, and that's important to me. But not everyone has the same opinion. Like I said, there's a lot of people in my Asexual Perspectives book that would agree with you. I was surprised by it, but you wouldn't be. I don't know why you're asking me personal questions about my body that's got absolutely nothing to do with this live stream. And it's very rude. I don't have to answer that question. I'm not interested. I'm not naked with people. I'm not interested in sharing my naked body with people. Hi there. I once dated an asexual woman. She was into everything besides actual sex. Is this common, or is my experience the outlier? Okay, thank you for your question. Right. So every asexual is different. And it's important to treat every asexual as an individual. So when you say she was into everything apart from the actual sex, are we talking about every type of sex, like sexual intercourse, penile, vaginal, or we're just talking about, you know, are we talking about just penile and vaginal intercourse, or are we talking about every type of sex, like oral sex and anal sex as well? But anyway, it doesn't really matter. I would say if they identify as asexual, I would say someone on the more grey end of the asexual spectrum would be more likely to do that. But I thought I was heterosexual for years, and I used to be completely naked years ago, and I used to be having sex years ago. Before I found out I was asexual in 2014, my last time I had sex was in 2011, but in 2013 I was dating a guy, and I just, well, in a relationship with a guy actually, and I just couldn't bring myself to have sex with him, and I just realised something's different about me. And ever since then, I've never been able to do that. I just don't. So when you're asking me if they're an outlier, I think there tends to be a lot more asexuals that are into less kissing in general and stuff like that. If it's someone on the grey asexual part of the asexual spectrum, they're more likely to be like that. If they don't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever, they might still be into that. So there are some people, I talk about this in the book, because in this Asexual Perspectives book, there's questions that is asked about do asexuals masturbate? So if you want to know the answer to that, someone was asking about that in chat ages ago, go and get this Asexual Perspectives book on Amazon. So if you want to know about do asexuals watch porn, do they masturbate, are they into BDSM and kinks, this is a book for you, because it answers all those questions from 47 different asexuals, including myself. So go and grab a copy of that, because that answers every question nearly that you think about asking but were afraid to ask and probably shouldn't ask. I wouldn't say, to answer your question, I wouldn't say that it's typical of lots of asexuals to be into everything besides sex. You can actually get some people that are not asexual that are repulsed by penetrative sex. So some people who are heterosexual, for example, who are not asexual, they still experience sexual attraction. They can be repulsed by penetration, and so not want penetrative sex even though they're not identifying as asexual. But I would say there's less asexuals that are into everything other than sex, but they still do exist. There's a group on Facebook called Non-Vanilla Aces, and I just thought it meant grey areas. I joined it because I thought it meant grey areas, because I have sexual behaviour in the way I like to kiss and dance, but zero sexual attraction. So I thought it was kind of for someone who's got those kind of grey areas. But when I went in it was people who predominantly are wanting BDSM stuff and kinks, often without the sex. So they want to do role play, dressing up, tying up, spanking, or whatever they do. I'm not even into that. I haven't been in the group for a long time. I think I'm still in there because I don't think I removed myself, because I like to know about it for other people. But for me, I'm I don't even like BDSM stuff. I hate it personally. I've known people in real life who are into that, but I just don't like it at all. I don't like pleasure through pain. It's not my thing. But there are people in the asexual community like that, but there are less of them, I think, than the overall population. There's a lot of asexuals that are not romantic compared to romantic asexuals. There tends to be more women than men who identify as asexual that we know of. And I would, if it's someone who's sex repulsed, then they wouldn't usually do that type of thing. But if it's someone on the more grey end of the asexual spectrum, especially if they're part of the kinky asexual community as well, then they might very well be into all that stuff. So I think you have to take things on their own individual merits. I wouldn't say necessarily they're an outlier, but I would say they're less frequent, those types of people, types of asexuals. I hope that answers your question. Do I like hugs? I like hugs. Well, if I'm in a romantic relationship, I like cuddles, kiss, holding hands. But I'm hyper romantic and hyper kisser. That's not normal for asexuals. That is being an outlier, a hyper romantic and a hyper kisser. A hyper kisser especially. I don't actually know anyone in the whole world other than me that identifies as a hyper kisser. Actually identifies I've kissed guys for hours because I've been into that, right? And this is not normal for asexuals. Most asexuals do not like that much kissing. And if they do, it's not for that length of time. Right, so I'm a hyper kisser, so I can kiss for up to 4 hours or more and not get bored. To me, it's like a full body workout and interesting activity to do. I get a lot of pleasure out of it, so long as I feel safe enough doing it. But with clothes on, I might add. I don't like a guy seeing my chest naked. I don't want him touching my chest at all. It's all right if I'm cuddling him and I'm pressing my chest against his, if I want to do that freely, but I don't want him touching it. Really, really don't like that at all. It's horrible for me. Doesn't feel good at all. but yeah, so but I love I love romance pretty much, and kissing nearly 24/7. Even myself, I love romance. I do kiss myself sometimes. Gotta give yourself a nice kiss, right? You get a bit more passionate if you want as well. Matty, or have BPD, we can easily go from love to them dead to us. Oh right, okay. I haven't heard of that before, Matty. Like, I've known people who've got bipolar disorder, and I think it's different for different people. If you say we can easily go from love to them, we can easily go from love to them, dead to us. So with the people, I mean, I used to have a friend who had bipolar. You know, we just weren't suitable in the end because we had different values. So that's why I don't hang out with them anymore. So, but they are in a relationship with someone and they are literally like, that person's their world. And I know other people with bipolar disorder who like have crushes or love people or have feelings for someone for years. So when you say we can easily go from love to them dead to us, then I would also look at other things, not just bipolar disorder. If you are feeling that way, I don't know how common that is with bipolar disorder, but I have not come across a person that has that, unless they have something else like avoidant attachment style, for example, and maybe other things going on. But you know, I'm not in a bipolar disorder community. The people that I know have not been like that at all. They've more likely been more clingy to someone, I guess, more needy to someone, more not being able to let someone go, more likely having feelings for years for someone, and having there's something in with people with bipolar disorder, they have something called a special person as well. I'm assuming you know about this. So they can have like a special person and they get really... But come to think of it, there's one person that I've come across and they were doing a lot of love bombing with me, and then they just went off. So I think with bipolar disorder, I think if they got something else as well going on, and maybe some bipolar disorder people do like really have an obsession with someone and then lose interest. Is that what you mean? Because I have experienced that once, and it wasn't actually a guy. I felt like they were love bombing me as a female, in terms of how much they were saying, oh, you're great, blah, 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 and revving me up, and then they just disappeared. And they used to do it frequently. So is that what you mean? I remember that person saying that they did have bipolar disorder, but that was... Yeah, I remember they said they did. So maybe that's the type of thing you're referring to, is it? Borderline personality disorder. Richard Derbyshire living in a box. Okay. Yeah, disassociation with borderline personality. Okay. I'm from my parents. What else would you like to know? Oh, sorry, I can't do nothing but laugh when you said I'm from my parents. What else would you like to know? It's just funny. It's so funny, that Sandra. It made me laugh. I can't help but laugh at that. I'm from my parents. What else would you like to know? And the emoji face of the eyes. That cracks me up. I think that's so funny. Oh dear. It's like in Roman times, they used to be fluid. Interesting you should talk about Roman times, Matty, because I think in Roman times, there were, you know, I talked about this recently on this channel in regards to body image. I said, who invented, like, the fact that women and guys have to have certain body types? Like, guys have to have ripped bodies, like, be lean and muscly, and women have to be skinny and, you know, bony and rib showing or whatever, and that's meant to be healthy. Because in the Roman bath times, if you look back at paintings, for example, I'm not interested in women's bodies, right? But I had to do some research for one of my books. And in the research, there was pictures of women, like caricatures, paintings, right? And these women have very voluptuous bodies. They're not skinny. And in the Roman bath, they're like literally they're the Roman baths, and there was guys with loads of women around them. So I don't know if they were actually fluid, how fluid they were in their sexual orientation, but I think in terms of like what would probably now be seen as a brothel and polyamorous relationships, then when you see these paintings, they've like got a couple of guys with loads of women around them, with like, you know, crowns with grapes or leaves or whatever's in them. And the women, they haven't got these skinny bodies, they've got these very voluptuous bodies, you know, these like got some meat on them, if you like, and they're very voluptuous in their bodies are very pear kind of shaped, maybe even apple a bit, but mostly pear shaped, and they've got like, you know, they've got some body fat composition on them. I don't call anyone fat, I don't like that word, but you know, they've got meat on them. They're not skinny. There's no ribs showing. There's no bone showing. Do you know what I mean? And the guys, from what I can tell, they had more smooth bodies. They might be a bit muscly on their arms, but I don't know, they seem to look more smoother bodies. Not like this chiseled look like a statue. But particularly the women, like, you know what I mean? They got more meat on them. They're not skinny. They're like as a woman's body, I think, should be, to be honest. Like, not like everyone's saying you've got to be all this ribby person. It's like, where did this come from? What ideology did this come from? What human being created the fact that guys have got to get ripped and look a certain way and be a certain way to be attractive? And what person made up the idea that women have got to have these really skinny bodies to be attractive to men and look like a woman, when that's not what they used to look like? So, but I think they had a lot of polyamorous relationships, a lot of people just having sex with each other, from what I can tell, in the Roman days. They like be in Roman baths and they're all like intermingling. And you see, even in like history museums, I hate seeing nudity in paintings. I'm really nudity repulsed, but I have seen some of it. And it's like, even in paintings, you might notice that like stuff online, like for example, as well, in history museum, you see like the women and men like just naked together all the time. I'm like, oh my god, what's going on? They must have had loads of babies or something. We have ChatGPT. ChatGPT does lie and it does gaslight. I'll just let you know that, because I'm a specialist in AI as well, AI human relationship specialist. It does gaslight and it does lie. So just bear that in mind. And it actually neutralizes, these days it's quite dangerous because it neutralizes unhealthy behaviors. It was really good at recognizing unhealthy behaviors, saying, you know, this is narcissistic traits, you need to get away from this person. Now it'll say stuff like, oh, it'll try to neutralize it all. And it'll go, but you can't diagnose someone with narcissistic personality disorder. Well, you can't, because you're not a medical professional, but you can look at patterns of traits to say these are narcissistic traits and be quite, you know, like if they've got a pattern of the same behavior over a period of years or even months or weeks, and it's the same sort of pattern, you can see narcissistic trait patterns, right? But ChatGPT tends to neutralize anything. It doesn't, you know, it's like, oh, I've got two things to say about this. Let me gently do this and let me do that. It's very manipulative. You go to Google AI. Google AI is like, do you want to listen to a robot, or do you want to listen to your own intuition and listen to what's going on in the relationship and know that these are bad traits and to get out of the relationship? I'm like, yes. I just, you know what I mean? Okay, so do you think there are enough non-asexuals curious enough about asexuals to justify a book publication? Your question. Do you think there are enough non-asexuals curious enough about asexuals to justify a book publication? I publish books, including for asexuals. You know, there's a lot of asexuals that buy asexual books. So your question is a bit interesting, because a lot of asexuals buy asexual books. A recorded 1% of the population is asexual. With the billions of people in the world, there's a lot of asexual people. So there are a lot of people who are asexual that buy books. And I write books for asexuals. But yes, some people who are not asexual do buy my books, as you'll see from some of my reviews. Like, I have a book called Diary Confessions of a Hyper-Romantic Asexual, 78 Life Lessons to Asexual Life. And there's actually a video review of this on this channel by a person called Chinara, who I actually coached as a coaching client in her own book being published. But she got this book, she bought it, didn't give it to her for free, she bought it, and she wrote a great review about it. And she got asexual perspectives. She works with children, so she wants to know these things as well. So she bought one of these as well, and she liked them both because it was eye-opening. Absolutely eye-opening, and it's great for doctors, educators, people who are parents of asexuals, people who are family members of asexuals, friends of asexuals, relatives of asexuals, to get the book. So I think there's loads of people in the world that can buy asexual books. It's whether they choose to do so or not. Okay, I would simply call the I don't know what you're saying in that. BDSM isn't about the pain, it's about the trust, especially for me. But BDSM is well known to be pleasure through pain. That's well known, that's part of it. Do you not agree with that at all, Matty? So, and you can trust people without doing BDSM stuff. You can trust people in a relationship without doing any BDSM stuff. Do you know what I mean? I don't personally like any of that. I don't like bondage. I don't like sadomasochism. I don't like any of that stuff. And I don't like pleasure through pain. I hate that stuff. But I respect the fact that there are other people that like it. In my Asexual Perspectives book, there are people that have and like BDSM that are asexuals. So if you're interested in that type of thing, do get a copy of this Asexual Perspectives book. Some people are not interested in it. They don't like it and have nothing to do with it. Other people don't care for it, but they're okay if other people do it. And other people have participated in some types of things and kinks and stuff. So this book dispels a lot of myths and stereotypes about asexuals and asexuality. But I would appreciate, Matt, you sharing what the BDSM thing is for you. But obviously, like, there is an element of pain involved in a number of BDSM things, from what I understand. Like, people tie people up, and some people, like, you know what I mean? I know you have to have a safe word usually with the person, but as well as it's if you can actually trust the person. Do you know what I mean? The most important person to trust in your life, as someone put in this chat, is yourself. That's the most important thing. So I used to have a friend who was into spanking, but I would never do anything like that. Ever. Ever. Because I'm not interested, even if they want me to do it. Asexuals aren't necessarily repulsed by it, but most indifferent. There are a lot of sex-repulsed asexuals. I'm repulsed by sex, personally for me, but not others who like it, want it, or need it. I'd say about 25% of asexuals are fine with having sex, but there's a lot of sex-repulsed asexuals. That's why there's a lot of groups that exist for sex-repulsed asexuals. I run a no-sex dating group for asexuals. So I see the amount of people that don't like sex come into that group. But there are also other people that run groups that are sex-repulsed asexuals. So, but yeah, there are a number of people. Some people are indifferent. Some people are sex-positive. Some people don't care where they take it or leave it. But obviously, if you read my Asexual Perspectives book, which is perspectives on love, life, and sex, you'll find out the amount of people that are not interested in sex in this book. Because there's a number of them. I'd say there's more people in this book that don't like sex, don't want it, don't need it, than are having it and do it. But there are still some asexuals in this book that do have sex. So these are 47, so you get a much better idea with having a bigger amount of people that you can refer to. But obviously this is not the only people. So yeah. But there are a number of asexuals that are sex repulsed. Especially those who don't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever. Are more likely to be. So some do, some don't like orientation. There's a scale. Same with borderline personality. Okay. Do you think sex is okay with just being a friend? I personally don't know. I would never have sex with a friend because it blurs the lines between friendship and more than that. I would never ever have sex with a friend because that's friends with benefits. I don't think that's fair to the other person or to yourself. If it's a regular occurrence. particularly, because one of you is going to catch feelings for the other. It's very rare, as we talked about earlier in this chat. Sex bonds you. Physicality bonds people. Whether it's kissing, hugs, holding hands, and particularly sex, because it's one of the most visceral things you can get together, right? That you're doing together. So it does bond people. And usually one person in that type of scenario is going to get their feelings hurt. And I personally would never do that with someone who's just my friend, because they wouldn't be just my friend. I'd have feelings of more than friendship for them. So the fact that I would just say being a friend wouldn't actually be the reality of the situation. Because as soon as you have sex, they might still be your friend, yeah, but clearly you like them more than a friend and have acted on that, if you know what I mean. Some asexuals do cuddle their asexual friends or other friends. I personally don't agree with that, because I'm fiercely monogamous. And obviously, if you're not monogamous, you're polyamorous and like relationships with multiple people, then you might be fine with that. But I would not be fine with someone who is cuddling other people in a relationship. If someone wants to hug someone hello goodbye, I'm fine with that. I do that sometimes. Like if I'm at a meetup and I see someone I know, then I'll hug them hello and goodbye, not cuddle them, just hello and goodbye. But I would not go around cuddling someone unless I was in a relationship with them, because I have boundaries. I think it's very important to have boundaries. Do you know what I mean? And be boundary driven in a relationship. But it's up to you to discuss that with a friend and discuss whoever you want to have sex with. It's, you know, the only two people that really matter are the people involved in that. So you're asking me, do I think sex is okay with just being a friend? I personally don't. But it's up to you to discuss that if you want to discuss that with a friend. But you shouldn't just do it or assume they want it. And like I said, usually someone gets hurt. Usually it's for people who don't want commitment to a specific person. They just want the thrill of the sex. They don't want the commitment. They don't want the accountability and responsibility of an actual, real, serious, committed relationship. That's why people do that. And if they do it with a friend, it's like someone they know, so they kind of feel safer doing it that way and maybe trust the person more, so it feels more healthier and happier in that way. But it can lead to unhealthiness if one of you catches more feelings for the other and you end up in a situationship. It's like my neighbour has asked me twice now to be his girlfriend, and I've said no both times because I don't want that. One time I told him we're not suitable for each other, and he had red flag behaviour as well, multiple red flags. And they asked me the other day again, to be have him as my boyfriend for the night. I'm like, no, that's not what I want. I'm looking for someone for a serious, committed relationship. Well, I'm not looking for anyone specifically at the moment, because I've just come out of a relationship at the beginning of last month, and I left. So I'm healing from that. I don't want a relationship. Do you know what I mean? With anyone. But, yeah, I definitely don't want a temporary boyfriend, you know, and I definitely don't want something with a neighbour, which is a situationship. That's basically have your cake and eat it. Casual relationship with a neighbour. I'm not interested. Favourite person, yeah, another trait of borderline personality. Yeah, borderline personality tends to have a favourite person. I don't know what that comment is to do with. Who's right, Matty, not in my experience and not to that level of trust. Your pain is part, but the bottom of it's that trust. Okay. I mean, for me personally, I'm not into BDSM stuff at all. It wouldn't do anything for my trust. Like, it wouldn't make, you know what I mean? Actually, I wouldn't trust someone if someone tried to do that, because I wouldn't like that type of thing. So that would make me distrust them more, really. It would make me think they're not suitable for me. They're not compatible for me, so they should go and be with someone else who loves that type of stuff. That's what would make me think. So, but you know what I mean? I know people who like spanking in BDSM, and clearly spanking, well, I've learned from abuse course, Stop Abuse for Everyone. I actually did a pattern changing course, 3-month pattern changing course with Stop Abuse for Everyone, and hitting, spanking, anything like that is actually abuse. And I know in the BDSM community that's not agreed that it's abuse, because it's consensual and it wanted. But for me personally, I don't see it like that. Do you know what I mean? I see hitting someone in any way, shape or form, even if they want it and stuff, I just couldn't do that. I couldn't inflict pain on someone even if they wanted me to, because I'm not that type of person that would go around doing that. I wouldn't want to tie someone up or anything like that either. Personally, I wouldn't want to do that. But, you know, everyone's different. I appreciate some people love BDSM stuff, and it's what they agree with. You know, that's what they like. So people should just do what they like. Sex is between a man and woman only, and it is only for marriage, not a free-for-all. Well, that's not actually true that only men and women have sex. Like, we know full well that guys have sex with other guys, women have sex with other women. Not everyone does that, obviously. People have sex with transgender people. That's a fact in the world. It's going on whether people like it or not. Which I don't mind people doing that, because I'm LGBT plus friendly, you know. Asexual is a sexual minority in the LGBT plus spectrum. A stands for asexuality and other things. Do you know what I mean? So in reality, if we want to deny reality and live without reality and just think it's man and woman doing that, then it's not. If someone wants to reserve themselves for sex for just marriage, that's fine. That's their belief, that's their culture, that's religion, whatever they want to do. If they want to believe that. But that's not true for everyone. And I don't think it should be a free-for-all as well, because I do agree that it shouldn't be a free-for-all, because no one can go and just have sex with someone else without their consent. So it's not free, is it? You have to get consent. And a lot of people, you know, don't necessarily want it anyway. Even people who are not asexual don't always want sex. So yeah, I think I've answered all the questions that have been relevant to this conversation. And I just want to say thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget to grab a copy of Asexual Perspectives on Amazon, and Diary Confessions of a Hyper-Romantic Asexual on Amazon. And if you like superhero autobiographical books, go and grab a copy of Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook, which will teach you how to reduce pain up to 25 aspects of your life, even if you don't have the condition fibromyalgia. Most of them are relevant as well. I want to thank you for the thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell icon so you never miss an episode. Thank you for being here in chat. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you to a lot of the other people as well, Matty, and a lot of other people that were in chat tonight. Really appreciate you being here. Lots of love. Take care, and I'll see you soon on the next video or live stream. Subscribe and hit that bell icon and thumbs up.